Good hello. Welcome. It's Onionskin stream day. Been ages since I've seen you all here. Good to be back. I have a lot of animation to do today. A lot of cleanup in particular. Some of you might have seen this project before. It was originally done for like a it's for like one of those maps, right? A multi-animator project. Where particularly it's a Smash Brothers one about reanimating the initial trailer for Smash Ultimate, where all of the characters were first introduced. Everyone's sort of taking a character each, reanimating them. I'm doing Samus, hooray. Also Metroid Dread, hooray. Good time to be animating Samus. But this thing's been sort of like on and off, a little bit in development hell for like a year or something. But also very easy to put off. So finally time to stop putting that off and get this thing finished. Now, I think there's still quite a few spots open in that project as well. I forgot to get a link for it, but I'll make sure that a link is in the description by the time this goes out as a video, or anyone who comes along in the chat and wants to know more. There's still a number of characters open if you want to get in on one and whip something up relatively quickly. Unfortunately, I have not whipped something up relatively quickly because I'm not much of a traditional hand-drawn animator. So when I try and do it, I have a tendency to overdo it, to like bite off more than I can chew by a factor of a lot. Like if there's no way that I can get a rig or some sort of software trick to do half the job for me, if it has to be drawn, then it might as well be something crazy, which is way overkill. Because observe, this was my first draft. That's what that looks like. So, it spins around, lots of weird stuff. And it's kind of cool. It's certainly ambitious. But if you were to show it to any professional traditional animator, they would have things to say. So I did. I showed it to my friend Christian, who's very, very good at what they do. And they came back with... no, it's not that one. I think it was this one. Yeah, look at that. They put a little bit of morph ball in there, a bit of a angle perspective. Way more dynamic in just regards to like staging and appeal. It's got all the principles in there. Look at that. Oh man, these angles are amazing. So it's sort of based on the same idea, but rather than give me notes, actual direction on like, hey, I'd tweak this, I'd change that, they pretty much just whipped this up in... I don't know how quick it was. Very quickly. Very impressed. And that sort of put me at a crossroads. Do I use this? Like, where's the line of plagiarism here? Do I take it as inspiration and try and animate something else from scratch with this in mind? Do I try and tweak it further? And I kind of just rolled with it, right? So, like we've got some of the key poses in there. If we break it down, let's thumb through there. So like that one. And then, like that's obviously like, that breakdown frame is a bit more loose. But then here you've got all the parts to fill in all the gaps of your knowledge, right? So that's pretty dang cool. So over the next little bit, as I continue to try and tweak and push around and figure out how this thing will do, ended up with this. I think this is where I'm at the moment. So it's definitely built upon that foundation. Trimmed down a little bit, but it's mostly been tie downs at the moment. And even then, huge challenge for me to try and figure out how to keep things on model, keep things consistent. I really should be practicing hand-drawn traditional animation in a way that isn't stupid. But I really can't let this go to waste, especially considering the treat of being given something of this quality. So the tie downs, as far as I'm concerned, are pretty well done. And the mission for today is how to do the cleanup. All right, so hang on. Where's the swatch for the roughs? There we go. So I'm part way into it. Now, last time I touched this project, I think was like February or something like that. So now I need to figure out not just where I was at, but was I even heading in the right direction? Like look at this. It's pretty clunky, right? Some of these poses were okay, but where I started to hit a snag was, where is the line of, well, where does the line thickness go? Like, how consistent should I be with it? Even here, I'm sort of getting a bit confused. This shoulder's thicker than this one. Do I keep things completely consistent the whole way around? I really would like to lean on some line thickness variation. But if you keep exactly the same thickness all the way around, you can end up giving yourself a pretty stupid amount of work, like you see here. Like, as the character zooms in, more details become apparent and everything takes longer to do as well. And whether or not it actually keeps all of its appeal and charm, there's like an argument that goes both ways, right? So I started to mess with this. I think, oh man, I thought I finished this frame, but like, this took me a while. Like, I think there was like a good 10-15 minutes just trying to get these arcs good. Like, you know, thinner lines are less forgiving. And then later on I said, screw it. And this expression frame, I embraced the thick lines, right? So went in and gave it plenty of variation and all of that. And I quite like this. Maybe I should be drawing with the lines thicker as things get closer. But isn't that, like, that's more challenging in a different way. So this is what made me feel really uneasy about, is this going to get finished at all? Is it going to get done in a way that I can be pleased with? Because like by this point, that's already going to have to be pretty thick. As thick as this though, I don't know. Like, at what point is going to be jarring? So this is a very time consuming project for something that is also super risky. Right? Like, what if it's just not good in the end? So let's make it an event. Very long-winded intro out of the way. I am live today, so I'm just going to be chipping away at just illustrating all of this as much as I can until I run out of time, and I'll try and keep the conversation going as much as I can, but I personally won't have a whole lot to say, so I'm going to be leaning on the chat to have things to talk about, and may or may not have some friends come along on voice chat along the way as well. Also, news. Tomorrow, as of recording, there's going to be a new video, and along with it, I'm opening up the Onionskin Discord server to the public for the first time. So the link for that is in the description right now as well. Grab that, come hang, share whatever you do. Hooray, it will be good. Anyway, that whole rant's over. I haven't looked at the chat at all, but there is, wow, 10 concurrent viewers. Amazing. I never expect there to be anyone. I did a brief one a couple of months ago, and I think at this point there was still nobody, and I was like, screw it, I'll just animate by myself. Yeah, there's a few people. I think it's mostly people that I reached out to personally to say, hey, I'm going to stream now. So, cool. Hello, everyone. Let's actually dive in. Oh, my goodness. Ugh. So, let's get the conversation going as well, shall we? So those who are hanging at the moment, how have you been? Have you been making anything cool? How's the world treating you? Should I go straight ahead or focus on particular parts at a time? How long did I spend trying to make that? Oh, I have not done proper cleanup in a while. This is going to be a doozy. And you can see how, okay, I may have to do a proper video on this when it's finished, but look how many attempts I've had. This is a mess of a timeline, even though all the animation in the end is going to be on a single layer. Ugh. Lots of risks and experimenting along the way in this one. Wait, how thick are these lines even? 5. Okay. Is it consistent all the way around? I think so. So I might end up working with 6 with a thickness variation of maybe like 30%. Sechin Lee says, I just started learning Harmony, learning how to organize nodes at the moment. Tell us more about that journey, Senjin. Have you been, like what's your motive for getting into Harmony? Is it mainly the node stuff that was the main like draw card, like the the big appeal. Because everyone comes for a different reason. And it's always fascinating to ask and find out. For some, it's for like literal work reasons. They, all of the jobs going are in Harmony, and it's like, oh man, I've only used Flash, so I better figure this out soon. And then others where they've gotten so good at their old methods to the point where they're effectively outgrowing them and need to start thinking about, well, what direction do I go in from here? And we've seen a few different directions for that lately. Some people moving into Blender rather than Harmony, or Clip Studio Paint. Moho's been quite popular for some as well. But anyone who knows me well, I really can't shut up about this software pretty well ever. And it's become a bit of a crutch as well. I use it for everything. Motion graphics, logo design, illustration, even note-taking. Which is probably not terribly wise, but whatever. Golly, this is... How thin should that be? Here. I love being able to be in complete controls of colors and line quality. Yeah, that's a great reason. There's one reason why I'm trying to practice more with this kind of stuff as well, because I lean so heavily on the effects tools and the node system and rigging and all of that sort of stuff. So when it comes to, hey, the only way to succeed at this task is just by being a good artist. Whew. Ooh, it's anxiety inducing. Even right now you can see these shapes. Like, why am I opting for the geometry tools, using circles and reshaping them with the selection tool rather than just saying, nah, screw it, like just draw it. But it's a circle, so shut up, I'm gonna do it this way. All right, just for these frames, then I'll try and draw stuff. Maybe I should have gone with a character who's a little bit more organic than a bloody super round, shiny mech suit. Do you learn frame by frame without trying to get work done for me? Wait, do you learn frame by frame without trying to get work done for... What? Perfect circles, I don't know. Yeah, I probably should embrace not using perfect circles and just let them be wobbly. We'll see where I'm at by the end of all of this, hey? Yeah. I think I say every time I stream as well, I'm one of those people that get sort of aware of having too much, like, would you say like dead air when streaming? You know, don't want it to get like boring or whatever. But if this is one of those like work along sessions, you know, study buddy or whatever, hey, maybe it's something to embrace. Also, I should probably be flipping more. Hey, look at that. Oh man, the bezel on this circle was completely inconsistent, and I've only done 2 frames so far. There we go. Oops. Embrace the wobbles, yes. Hey man, hope this isn't too stressful. No, not at all. Hello, Pizza Box. So Pizza Box is the one who's running this project, by the way. So it is tremendous having you here, and definitely do not apologize, as remember, this project was meant to be a year ago. And I literally haven't like touched this in months and months. Hang on, I should probably mention in that server that I'm happening right now. Hey. Sweet. And sorry, one sec. Going into position. Okay. So this thing cracking open, what's going to happen to it? Oh, it's the ball of energy inside. We do get to embrace the wobble after all. Is there an alternative way on Control F on Harmony? I saw an animator did some full screen on the camera tab. Thanks. Yeah, Control F does work. It's got a couple of steps to it, I believe, where you press it once and the whole application goes full screen, and then you press it again and the currently selected window goes full screen. So you see this orange box that's around the camera view there? That's the thing it centers on. So if I move my mouse down here, see the orange border is around the timeline. So if I press Control F, then I get full screen timeline view. I'm not sure, however, if there's a way to skip that initial step or if you have to cycle through all three modes to get back around again. I feel like I would probably lean on it a lot heavier if it was like some sort of toggle. Like if I could just hold one key down and then timeline will go full screen for that moment. And then if I let go, it'll go back down again. Yeah. Benjamin Barbosa says, I animate in Toon Boom. Of course I animate in Toon Boom. It is the way. There is no other way to animate anymore. Because then you are limited only by your imagination. Okay, what's the energy going to look like? It probably needs to be a different color lately, but I'm just going to embrace the jiggle. Whoa. That'll do. I'll leave the background there in case I do some compositing on it later. Okay. So it's going to start off. Let's pick up the pace. This is too slow to be all right. Ugh, man, I'm getting so anxious about the freaking line thickness thing. I need to make a decision on that. Is there a way to do polls or something in here? Need opinions. I briefed the video before I think anyone arrived. So basically what's happening is this. Character is back here for a lot of it, right? So suitable thickness for that. But then because I'm not a frame by frame guy, I'm just using that thickness of brush all the time. So the character swings around, they get super big. All right, okay, that's still fine, I guess. Maybe it would benefit from some thickness variation. But then you get in here. This is the same line thickness as before. Is it too thin now? I don't know. It's fine, I guess, but it will take longer because now you start getting extra details. Like, you know, there's rivets between the grill of the mouth plate, for goodness sake, let alone however much else I could put in. I could probably have segmented lines between the neck plates and stuff if I really wanted to get carried away, but no. Anyway, later on, I was like, screw it. And then I did this close up with like uber thick lines, right? To make it really expressive and dynamic. And I think that turned out kind of cool. But maybe that's too thick. Trying to get that to marry well with the thinner stuff is going to be kind of tricky. Now, fortunately, the handy thing about animating and doing cleanup in Toon Boom is that the pencil tool has thickness sensitivity with adjustable strokes. So I could select all these lines and then rip it all the way down after the fact. That could work. But then you get phenomenons like this. If you drew it thick and then make it thin, all of your imperfections start to show up, right? You know, the benefit of drawing with thick lines is that you get away with more. It's just faster by nature because you don't have to be quite as precise. So would I be better off drawing thin? And then if we say, hey, this would look cool if it was thick, and then bump it all the way up to something like this, that would work as well. Ignore these imperfections. That's deliberate at the moment. But the weight ratio is proportional, right? So this is all looks pretty even, but line thickness pressure is taken into account. So by the time they're thicker, the thinner lines are thinner, the thicker bits are thicker. And you know, you can really see the difference between, say, like, yeah, this like grill and the necklines and stuff like that. All things that I am completely inexperienced in. I've spent the vast majority of my career in the rigging space where it's kind of just built in with a lever. Doing it by hand on a frame by frame level is terrifying. So what do you think? Opinions, objections, critique, please help. We have Sunjin Lee saying, I'm a thick line believer. Lockie, however, says, very thin boy. Rajput Viraj, sorry if I said that wrong, says, it's perfect. All right. I think that is the broadest range of opinion there could ever possibly be. Sunjin Lee pushes back. It is never too thick. The first is okay. Lockie says the thick lines add emphasis to that stressed out look that person has in that shot. Jakra says, hello, just got here. What are you animating? This is a gesture of Samus doing a big ol' backflip. There we go. Look at that. Whoa. And then shows up kind of big old shot. All right. Who's excited for Dread? Yeah. How did you do the 3 storyboard-like panels on your camera tab? Oh, right. These are my earlier drafts. Like, this whole journey has been like a massive struggle for me trying to figure out how to get all the staging things right. So I was constantly referring back to my earlier drafts and the one that my friend Christian did for me as well, which is this one here. So rather than just having them as layers stacked on top of each other, I gave them their own pegs and just placed them up there. So, you know, think of it like a symbol or whatever. It's just compacted and then moved. There we go. So it's just made small and then placed up there. This is a pretty common technique for storyboards when you're working on a production as well. Sometimes you have your storyboards full screen in the center, so it's overlaid with what you're animating. And sometimes you just sort of want it off to the side as a reference. So you'd have a peg that's just shrunk down over there, so you can flip back and forth between the two. I quite like to do that with a second camera view over here. So then I can zoom in on one of my references like this and make that as like a little bit of a viewfinder, so I can be concentrating in on my drawing over here, and then that's going to be, because it's on the same camera view, I'm just looking somewhere else. It's going to keep up with my frames as I flip back and forth. Really handy. Anyway, stop sending me on tangents. I'm never going to get that animation done. Damn it. How much time do you... I wish I could highlight comments as I read them so I don't have to like search through them every time. So inexperienced at streaming. There's all these like weird tricks and tools that I'm completely unaware about. How do the 3 storyboard like... Oh yeah, that's the one I just answered. Oh my goodness. Anyway, now there's a few people here, by the way. I wanted to remind you again. The Onionskin Discord server is now public for the first time. Ooh. So you can... we can all stay in touch a little bit better and send our animations to one another and give them critique and hang out. It'll be great. It's in the description. Yeah. It was previously just a Patreons only thing. But yeah, we talked amongst ourselves, those who were already there, and we thought it'd be cool to sort of open up the doors and expand things up a little bit so anyone can come hang. Give it a click. We might hang out there a little bit later, like do a voice chat, and then some of you can come on. We can talk verbally, which is probably easier for me to multitask than to keep shifting my attention between drawing and people talking. But I always prefer the conversation streams than the drawing into a void ones. So how much time do you want to spend doing this then is the real question. Ultimately, I really want to aim to try and have this done tonight. It's currently 4:30 p.m. where I am, so that's probably around 6 hours, maybe 7 if we're pushing it. Yeah. You could do a thick outline on the side of you. It's an interesting idea as well. The animatic already looks sick, says Jackaris. Yeah, well, this is because my friend helped me out with it. And I'm kind of tempted to just submit it as is. But these laments that I'm expressing with cleanup are important. Like, if I just ignored them, then I don't learn anything. And, cleanup's a really interesting topic like that, because when you're on production with it sometimes, depending on what it is, if everything is just a thick line, like I did cleanup for a Watchmen project last year, and that was super chill because like there was a really concise style guide for it. So I could pretty much just follow the instructions, put a podcast on, and get on with it. But when doing it for yourself, under circumstances like this, there's a lot of important decisions to be made, and keeping it consistent is a real challenge, and I would like to get better at it. Trial by fire, am I right? Lost my panel again. I thought for sure I just drew the... Didn't I just draw this one a second ago? I thought for sure that I did. I hope I'm on the right layer. Man, can you... Like, there's so many layers in here. Can you imagine if I started drawing them on the wrong one? Okay, which tool do you use if not using the... Wait, which tool do you use if not using the drawing tab? Are you talking about this drawing tab? I'm usually a brush for roughs, pencil for cleanup kind of guy. So using the pencil at the moment, especially in this question of line thickness. This at least gives me the ability to change it in post if it turns out we've made a bad decision. And I'm saying we because if I make a bad decision now and I've consulted my audience about it, then it's on you guys. Taking you all down with me. Oh, I thought it was display mode. Oh, okay. Cool. There's so much knowledge, but your voice is really soothing, and I'm drifting off to sleep. I'm glad that you specified soothing, because if you just said that I was putting you to sleep, then I would really be unsure whether to take that as a compliment or an insult. Hey. But it's one reason why doing YouTube can be fun, because then you can take a topic that you tend to talk people's ears off and get them really bored and just be like, you know what, I'm just going to talk about this into the aether, and then anyone who happens to be interested can just tune in and then leave when they've had enough. 11:36 p.m. Yes, I did choose an interesting time to get started, didn't I? Despite casually doing YouTube as a hobby for like, oh goodness, how long has it been? About 7 years now? Goodness. I still have no idea when an optimal time to upload would be to cater to everyone's time zones. I always think it would be like super early in the morning, because that's when it's like mid-afternoon for the US. But I think that's like not great for the UK or whatever. And then to my surprise, this time, where I thought it would be bad for essentially literally anywhere else in the world, there seems to be more people ready to hang out. Like when I've done streams in the morning, it's quieter than this. But like this sort of number is perfect, where we're sort of hovering around the 25 to 30 mark. If you don't want to spend that much time, I would stick to thicker lines, but I don't know how fast you work. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Benjamin. Yeah, you're right. Because the deadline is the most important thing right now. Regardless of whether or not thinner or thicker looks better, thicker is more efficient. GPAC says, I was saying while using drawing tablet, some people use the brush tool, so when not using the drawing tablet, which tool is suitable? Oh, do you mean like when drawing with a mouse? I'll ask for your answer on that before I jump onto a tangent that may or may not answer what you're after. Speaking of which, I'm totally cool with despite really wanting to try and finish this today, I can never say no to fun tangents. If you have questions or suggestions, like particularly harmony related, if there's something in the software that you are currently struggling with and want to know more often than not, I'm willing to go off script and give like a bit of a demo to try and help out what you need. Depends on what it is. If it's going to take like an hour, then probably not. But you know, like the quick 2-minute, how does this thing work? No worries, because you get some quite fun results when talking about that. Okay. If we're going to go thicker lines, maybe I should start concentrating on some of these bits. And let's say a compromise. Samus's face is currently at a thickness of 38. If we bump that down to 20, that gives us this, which, I think that looks cooler though. Look at the helmet. That's way too thin. Maybe this just needs to be a little bit more tailored. Because I drew with 38 in mind. Let's see what 30 is cool. Let's do that. All right. Screw everything. I'm going to move over to this section of the animation and work my way in and out of the zooms based on here with just essentially what looks cool and hope that it hooks up. And if any professional traditional animators come along and want to warn me that this is a terrible idea, please do so. All right. Face grill. Hiya, hiya. Oh, that's way faster, isn't it? Don't have to be nearly as precise. Yes. I love being crude. More variation. 5% minimum. Yeah, that's what we want. The grill there-ish. Wait, hang on. The grill's here. That's actually off screen. Good morning, says Arjan. Good morning to you too. I was saying while using the drawing tablet to use a brush tool. Oh, wait, no, hang on. That's, man, always reading the same questions twice. Sajin Lee says, I'm actually going to start animating myself. I'll just listen to you while I'm at it. Fantastic. That is my favorite thing about doing casual work like this live. Because it will have its dry spots, right? It's the study buddy kind of thing. This will be going up just as a regular video when it's done as well. So it'll just be like a 6-hour hangout thing. So hopefully it'll act kind of podcasty. Good to have on in the background while you do other tasks. I'm certainly not going to be putting in the energy to try to make this entertaining enough to hold your full attention. I can't imagine anyone just sitting here for 6 hours watching me work. Open something up, get some drawing done. Because especially if you do make anything while hanging out on the stream and finish it, tweet it at me, regardless of whether or not I've finished or not. I'll grab that animation and we'll most likely show it off on the channel within the next couple of weeks in a video or at the beginning of the next stream or something like that. Or at the very least, it'll end up on the Discord. Again, subscribe to the Discord. Come hang out with us there. Benjamin says, yo, hate to ask if it's too complicated, but what is that tab on the side? It looks like textures on a 3D program. Tab on... Oh, these ones here? These... tab on the side looks like texture... Yeah, okay. I'm thinking... I'm taking a punt that this is these buttons that you're talking about because they are unusual. Even if you're a Harmony user, these are unexpected. They're plugins. They're a suite of plugins by Cubum Lee. No. Cubum Lee's the guy who did the olive rig. I'm thinking of Yuyuda. Yeah, Yuyuda is a great member of the community who makes plugins and scripts for Harmony for free on their website. And I've scattered them all over my software here. I should get their link because I recommend everyone goes get their Harmony plugins. Hopefully I can find them in a pinch. They do all sorts of interesting things. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Oh, maybe. Yes. Excellent. Harmony scripts. Cool. All right. Now, I don't think I can post links in the chat, I'm afraid. So I may or may not be able to get it to you guys this way. Hang on, let's find out. Yes. There we go. So let's put the link in there, and I'll show it to you here as well. So this guy's great. Like, look at all this stuff, all these extra little features that the program doesn't have by default that are just like really nice quality of life things. And they do all sorts of stuff. So, you know, duplicate, it keeps all the links. How many times have you ever made a, you've been intending to make an envelope deformer, but it was still in curve mode and it has that little notch on the back? This just switches to it in post. This one's really nice. Delete unexposed drawings. What else we got? There's this one's really cool. It's a buff for the master controller where it takes every instance of the joystick's position and everything along. So, you know, the master controller can have some weird undesirable results if you're not well practiced with it. And this just makes it a little bit more, shall we say, idiot proof. It does what you expect it to do more often of the time rather than having to work around and get used to its quirks, if that makes sense. So yeah, they're great. And basically, as I've practiced them, I've moved them into their correct or their most appropriate place around the program. So you can see there's a couple of them up here, and like the deformer based ones are up here. Some of the frame related ones I've moved to down here. And these ones on the side are ones that I haven't really gotten around to trying out properly yet, right? So this is sort of like my to-do pile, my things to experiment with one day control bar. And then when I get comfortable with these tools, they'll find their home somewhere else on the interface. Yeah. Where was I? Do I have a tutorial on how to use Harmony? You know, that's actually a pretty good question, because it is the nature of my entire channel. But to sum it up into a single video, I haven't done a whole lot of. There's because like my foundations of Harmony video, the one that you see immediately when you go to the channel, is that one talks about all of the theory, all of the back-end engineering and mechanics of how the program works. It can be a little bit overwhelming to brand new people because it doesn't have that instant gratification, hey, let's make a thing step by step by step. However, it contains all of the most common pitfalls that new users experience and sometimes take a good couple of months to get used to. So it's the kind of video that if you sort of work through it slowly and take notes and get to grips with how it works as you experiment on your own and press buttons and see what they do, then the idea is that you have that light bulb moment sooner and can move to a place of confidence where you can start teaching yourself and move around the program with confidence without fear of messing something up. Because frankly, the program's so big that I try to teach it in a very open way like that, I guess, where telling you how to use the program isn't really an ideal answer because there is no one way to use it. All I'm doing is telling you a way to use it, and that's only going to be applicable to a certain segment of the audience, right? And if a new user comes along, curious about what all this is about, and the way that they see that tutorial work isn't what they're used to, it isn't like how they personally intend to use it, they're more likely to think, oh, that's how the program works, I'm not into that, and then just not give it a go at all, which I think would be a shame. So anyway, sorry, I know it's probably a really long-winded answer to just, yes, here you go. I would like to do more general beginner videos, though. What did I do wrong with this collar here. That's not right. Hang on, maybe it's just meant to be like this. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I did wrong. I'm a dummy. Anyway, next thought is from Studio Anima saying, "Hey Onionskin, I've been animating for around 5 years and I can never find the right color for my line art. If you know what I want to do something that's not black. Any suggestions? I just want to make my stuff look a little different, you know. Sometimes I will use like a bluish purple." So it sounds like you want a uniform line, but because, you know, because it sounds like you understand that the choice is usually like people either go with black for everything, or every character has like, it's like a darker tint of the fill of that region. But you're being like, hey, what would it be like if the whole show had like a purple outline or something like that? Am I on the right track there? And just sort of being like, what would be a cool alternate to black? Yeah. Let me know if I'm on the right track there, and then I'll see if I can help you out. Oh, okay. So Benjamin says, after this huge long-winded thing that I talked about all of these plugins and stuff, and then gave a plug for what they were and how they work, he says, no. The tab right next to the drawing tab. My bad. Now, I still don't know where you're pointing, I'm afraid, because my drawing tab is hidden back here. So where are we? Where are we looking at these ones? The guide paths, perhaps? The tab right next to the drawing tab. You're talking about a tab though, not a button. Oh, perspective. You're talking about perspective view. Oh my god, I'm so stupid. Of course. Yeah, because the original question was, hate to ask if it's too complicated, but what is that tab on the side? It looks like textures on a 3D program. Oh wait, no, maybe I'm wrong again. Because perspective is about 3D, but it's not about textures. Yeah, sorry, you might have to elaborate a little bit further. Sorry, I'm being so difficult for you. More like a window. Oh, are you talking about the nodes? Have you been talking about the node view this whole time? Oh man, I never know whether to assume that the people hanging out here are seasoned Harmony users or people looking at the program for the very first time. Yeah, if you're talking about the node view, then yes, the ultimate spine for how the whole program operates. The best thing in the world. Used for rigging, comping, anything you can imagine to get work done. Yes, it uses a lot of the same logic that you would expect to see in a 3D program for creating effects and physics and all that sort of stuff. Very, very powerful feature. And normally, if you were here for basically any other stream on literally anything else I make, the node view is where I spend like 95% of my time. Like, that is my jam. I freaking love it. However, I need to practice my traditional animation. So you've caught me on a weird day where I am just drawing. And you know what? Screw it. Because you're here, Benjamin, and you're saying that you're looking at the program for the first time, which is suggesting to me that you're probably not a subscriber yet. So to try and win you over, let me show you something kind of cool. This is relevant, I promise, because it's also a Metroid themed thing. It's for a client. He's a fellow YouTuber called the Metroid Trainer. And this is where I'm up to in the project. This is what it looks like. It's just a little Metroid. Look at him go. Blobby, blobby, blobby. Jiggles around. The veins go everywhere. Good fun. But what's cool about this is I got it down to a point where you can animate it with a single point. And all of the like jelly and everything else is automated based on how the nodes are assembled. For a project like this, it's really straightforward. Like this mess is simply just layers with extra steps. But for the Metroid build, I'll give you guys a bit of a tour of it. It'll come out as a proper video eventually, and I may do another stream showing off, like just polishing it up, getting it over the line, like I am with this one as well. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. So this is my Metroid build, and this is what the nodes look like for this one. So it's quite a more complex contraption built in a very specific way. And it's got a few different, shall we say, modes to it on how everything is constructed. I spent way longer building this than I probably should have. Like if I was to just animate the character by hand, I probably would have finished sooner. But now the advantage is if the client needs more animation made later, I can fart them out super quick, right? So like the bulk of the work was in building it, but now any sort of gesture or wiggle or whatever else I want this character to do within limits, I can now do very, very quickly. So let me show off some of its features. We've got, I think, I'm not sure how wobbly it is at the moment. Vein spring, nuclei spring, which piece? So sometimes when you're doing this like for TV and stuff, you would provide certain controls and handles for the artists to grab onto. Because I'm the only person who needs to work with this, I just go straight to the nodes. I don't really care. But there you go. You see how I grab that? And it automatically does a bit of squash and stretch. And you can see the pincers are influenced, but like less so. So like there's sort of a limit. If I stretch it up too far, you see it starts to break down a little bit. And as it moves around further and further, the coolest part I thought that I was kind of proud of is how these veins here, they are parented to both the membrane and the nuclei simultaneously, which is pretty cool. So, oh, hang on, I don't want that one. I want the top front, this one. There we go. So if I pull on the root there, or if I pull on the left one there, you see how that sort of goes around, and there's a pivot in the middle too, so that can have like a bit of jiggle to it. You can sort of rotate it around like that. And that's got a bit of physics influenced as well. So you can see there's this node underneath called the dynamic spring. And that means whatever animation is applied higher up the chain, so like if the whole body moves around, then the center point of this vein is going to have a slight delay and a bit of automatic overshoot to it. Like it's called a spring, right? It's pretty self-explanatory. It has a bit of inertia, a bit of jiggle to it. And you can sort of wind that up and tighten it and things like that, depending on what you need. So I'll help explain a little bit more. Here is the nuclei selected. So if I pull on that, you see the veins stay connected to the outer membrane. And the same will happen if I try and grab one of this like collection of veins here. I might need to turn the shell off to get to that. There we go. So if I grab that, no, not that. If I grab that now, there we go. See how that's sort of connecting to there. And maybe if I turn the shell back on, we could see that a little bit in action as well, because I think hopefully one of these steps of the shell is going to move I can't remember. It's already been so long since I built this dang thing. But I had a few different influences here because sometimes I want to be able to animate it by hand and sometimes I want it to be somewhat automated. So there are a couple of control levers somewhere for being able to influence that. I'm getting a little bit carried away with showing this guy off now, but there's one more little cool thing I wanted to show off, which was the master controller. Where did I put it? Come on, it wasn't that long ago when I built this thing. Let's see. Come on. I'll just select everything. That way I will definitely find it. Cool. All right. So here's a little lever because like Metroid doesn't really have that much articulation, right? All he really does is have the fangs open and close. So rather than having to animate it by hand, I just was able to animate 2 keyframes, closed and open, and then that gets pinned to a lever. So the physics plus this, I was able to get some really interesting effects. And then down here, you get a little bit of compositing as well, where you get your standard stuff that you would expect to see in After Effects and Photoshop and stuff like that. Glows, blending modes, different masking systems and stuff like that. It's a really, really cool system, allowing it to sort of light up and have some, nice dynamic polish to it. A fun journey, that character. So meanwhile, back to the chat. So hope that was enough of an interesting thing to convince you to stick around, because other people like Senjin Lee is, hang on, I just read it. Where did you go? No, Studio Anima says 3-year subscriber here. Fantastic. Have we spoken before directly? Because I feel like most of the subscribers who have been around for donkey's years, I've had a one-on-one with at some point. But it's always fun to like actually meet someone new who's been around for ages. It's genuinely like physics on 3D. It sort of is, sort of isn't. It's a little bit more simple, I suppose, and probably a little bit more up to your ingenuity to get it to work well in a way that you want. Because the spring really is just make this one keyframe have a bit of delay to it, and it's sort of dependent on how you connect it up with other things to help you save time. It's a really clever system, and the risk that we sometimes run with it is getting carried away, because like if you make something too elaborate, it does get to the point where it's like you might as well have built it in 3D, right? You know, the whole point of 2D is to say is that it's you're always going to have more control over it. You know, it doesn't matter how clever 3D gets. Nothing will ever be as flexible as just drawing. And being able to buff that drawing with digital tools can help a lot. But many of us, myself included, have fallen so in love with those digital tools that sometimes it can run the risk of outweighing the original benefits. Like if you're not doing any drawing anymore, then it's like, what are you doing? I have too much to learn. It's so exciting. That's cool to hear, Benjamin. Can you tell us more about your background, by the way? Because it sounds like is it a background in 3D? Would I be right in assuming that? Like, what is your software of choice? And do you do the sort of thing that I was just showing off, like rigging or effects, compositing? What's your jam? Beast Mode asks, how do I save an image sequence What have I done? Am I back? Oh no. Okay, cool. Great. Yes, I was saying something awesome and educational that whole time. Thank you, Kavi, for using the whole at thing that brought it to my attention a bit sooner. How much of the whole right node explanation did I get to do just then? Did I get through it? Do I need to do all that again? Uh-oh. If you want to do image sequences, use the right node, set your image sequence there, then go file, export, render right nodes, and then it will do it. Okay? Okay, cool. Yeah. Hey, I'm new to... Gabriel asks, hey, I'm new to animating and don't really know when to use a new scene. Can you elaborate how you would divide a project into multiple scenes? Yes. So, depends on what you're making. If it's anything that's more than like a couple of shots, you know, like a couple of camera changes or anything like that, you would want to use a different document per shot. And then you use an editing program like DaVinci to bring it all together, which is pretty straightforward to do. If it's something relatively short like that, where maybe you've just got like 2 camera angles or something, assuming you're using Harmony Premium, you would probably set up 2 different sets of nodes. So you would have something like this. So you've got, you know, scene 1 goes down to this display and this right, and then scene 2 goes down to this display and this right. So this is effectively like having 2 different scenes exist in the same document. If I go over to display 1, then like it's basically a blank file ready to start another one, and then you export one, then you can export them both together and still bring them either way. You still got to bring them together in an editing program, but that's a good way to clean up your timeline, and thankfully applications like DaVinci Resolve are proper, like professional level editors and are free to use. So, you know, there's really no like, it's fine. That's my 2-second explanation without going and doing a full, 15-minute video on it. Man, I love the chat conversations, but I'm never going to get around to finishing any animation, am I? Matthew Smith says, remember that scene in Wreck-It Ralph where the king floats around in the program to steal the medal? Okay, referring back to, man, I feel like I'm pretty far up the chat now, but there's still so many things to catch up on. Because Studio Animus says, when are you going to do another read between the frames? Oh, man. I'd love to. I love read between the frames, but it's been a long time, has it? Does anyone else here remember read between the frames? Have you been around long enough for that? It was a fun segment. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't like it because it's about reviewing or at least analyzing other shows, right? Which means there's copyrighted stuff appearing all throughout that segment. Really difficult to get it to stay up and not have it like straight up striked, or at the very least, like demonetized or whatever. So it's always been very difficult to justify spending the time on new read between the frames episodes when I could be making tutorials or original content or whatever. I have a backlog of about 8 episodes that I really want to do. And it's a little bit supply and demand. On the other hand, it's they take ages to do. Tutorials are fast. My favorite kinds of videos to make are the ones where I can just pump them out in an afternoon. because, you know, I work full time. Finding the time for video making is something I struggle with. Multitasking sucks. Maybe what I should do, because I'm getting distracted all the time, is put out a poll on some of the episodes I'm thinking of doing. I'll do it later. I can't be bothered getting the list right now. But I wouldn't mind getting like the audience's feedback on if I was to do a read between the frames, to sort of test the waters to see if it's worth bringing back proper. Which one you'd like to do first? I'd like to see first. Anyway. Fifth Still is talking about DaVinci Resolve. The node view reminds me of the Fusion tab in DaVinci Resolve. Yes, it's a very similar concept. I love DaVinci. Unfortunately, I haven't mucked around with the Fusion tab as much as I would like to. I'm so used to Harmony's sort of like philosophy, like how it handles it, that using any other program just sort of like breaks my brain because but I'd love for you to tell me more about what it's like. What are some of its like frustrations in particular? I'd probably like to hear, because like I would like to have my frustrations with DaVinci Fusion like debunked, basically, because I'm like, this feels dumb. Is this the program being limited, or am I being stupid and not taking the time that I need to get to know it and embrace it? So if you come back and tell me, no, Fusion is perfect, if you're having any concerns with it, you're being stupid, then I will listen to you. And if you say, no, it actually does have some drawbacks, then I will be like, cool, I was sort of on the right path with my suspicions. I don't know. I think I just haven't learned it properly yet. Studio Anima says, I mostly just watch your videos. I normally don't have time to attend streams, but on somewhere occasions like tonight. Well, I don't stream often enough. I really want to be in the routine of doing it at least every week. But I have terrible time management skills. As any long-time subscriber may have noticed, I tend to go through bursts of activity where I'll upload every week for a bit and then I'll disappear for a number of months. Usually it collides with when I have a job. And then when I'm between jobs, I'll just default to focusing full-time on the channel. But now I am working full-time for what looks like is going to be at least the next year or so. And if all goes well, ongoing. Like it's an actual employed position rather than a contract position this time, which is kind of exciting. But that means I must figure out how to balance both. All right, there's no way I get away with just not posting anything for a whole year. There's too much stuff I want to make. But dedicating like an hour a day, oh man, my brain doesn't work that way. Like is anyone here like that, where you get like super into a task, like the day has to just be this one thing and you get like super into it and the whole rest of the world doesn't exist? That's how I like to work. So doing a full-time job and then shifting gears into doing onionskin stuff while still doing like, I don't know, keeping a house tidy. It's a silly excuse. Everyone else seems to be able to do it. I don't know why I can't. I'll figure it out eventually. Where was I? This scroll bar is starting to move a little bit too high up the chat for my liking. I'm probably responding to comments from about 20 minutes ago at this point. So I'm gonna pause for a second and just do a quick read. You guys can follow along. Hopefully I can catch up. And yeah, definitely simpler, but it works basically the same. Benjamin says, I'm a student on 3D animation. I use Maya, but I know a little about 2D animating on Adobe Animate. That is awesome. Oh, yep, and here's everyone talking about everything muted. Whoops. Oh man, that was ages ago. How awkward. All right, sound cut out. Cool. Am I talking? Cool, thanks. Oh, I hit mute that time. um, cool. All right. Why is Onionskin PFP so? Oh, it's in my onion. Studio Anima says, "Oh, definitely. I'm definitely that way. I work 12 hours, but then somehow I still try to find time to do animation projects. I will literally not leave my house until I complete at least one scene." That is a great attitude, and I would love to know your secrets on how the heck you pull that off. Because after an 8-hour day, it's tough. Like I was teaching officially on like on behalf of Toon Boom for a bit there. I hope to be able to continue doing it. But when it was like essentially a full-time thing, it was like somehow I struggled to justify finding time to do my own lessons here, right? But now that my new job is a very administratory one, like like it's a higher ranking position than I've previously had. It's not a very creative one. There's like a lot of spreadsheets and emails and meetings and that kind of thing involved. So I found myself being like looking forward to being able to sit down and animate again. But I am kind of done by that time of day. Because I think it's because that's a position where I kind of need to have one eye on the inbox all day long. You know what I mean? Because it's like, hey, this thing's happened. Like, we need to put this fire out now. And it's like, oh god, okay. So like that's been the big learning curve thing for me, is how do you balance the creative production style tasks with the businessy stuff, I guess. Anima goes on to say, I'm actually working on this episode that's 20 minutes long, so I have to put all the time I can into this. That is a huge undertaking for a personal project. Damn. Very, very ambitious. Very impressive. How's it coming along so far? And Anima goes on to say, oh wow, teaching on behalf of Toon Boom. That's still pretty good. Yeah, it was great. They're a really good company. It's, like I've been close with them for a long time because how much free promotion do I give them? A lot. And yeah, it's like their courses are very structured. They've got like proper curriculums and stuff like that. And it's been funny like doing them because every now and then they'll turn out to have already been an Onionskin viewer, That's always kind of fun. I was like, hang on, I recognize you. Actually, that happens more often when I enter, when I train on location at studios. Where there's like this sort of like awkward double take moment, because although I don't hide my face from the channel, but it's not readily on display either. So people kind of like squinting their eyes for a second, being like, geez, you sound familiar. Where do I know you from? Have we met? And sometimes it takes weeks for them to put two and two together. But it's that's always fun because like it's a really small insular community we have amongst Toon Boom animators. So like, but like in that niche, I get to be the cool kid sometimes. All right. How's Animate's project going? It's going pretty well. I animate on mobile. It's an interesting application called Flipperclip. The developers of their application know I exist now, and at least because they had a Zoom chat with me. That's awesome. I've heard about Flipperclip. I've never used it. It's sort of like the go-to for mobile animation now, right? So it's like an iPad app. I really need to give that sort of stuff a go. Hey, it'd be good to have more casual outlets for animating. I only discovered, what's the DS one? Flipnote? No, what's it called? I thought that was called Flipperclip. What is it? There's a 3DS one. It's been out for ages, but I only got it like this year. Jesus of the Jungle says, my last year has been an obsession of learning harmony. I get ya. Yeah. This is the way. Matthew Smith says, I wish I could delegate hours onto certain projects instead of weeks. Yeah, tell me about it. Mr. Creative says, I'm learning Toon Boom. Where can I get my art commission? You might have to elaborate on that one a little bit for me, please. Cavi says, all right, I'm back. I wish I could have been as active as I was earlier in the year, but school and marching band is taking up a large chunk of my time. I didn't know you did marching band. That's cool. Benjamin says, have more fun with your creative endeavors. I would say not to stress much about it. And work is work, Yeah, guess you're right. But, I try and be passionate about the jobs that I get as well, especially when you get to have more of an influence on how they turn out. Or rather, the responsibility of, if it doesn't go well, it's on you. Anime goes on to say, wait, no, hang on, I reread that one. Anime does go on to say, yeah, pretty much it's the go-to, Flipperclip is the go-to for Android and iOS. I used it a long time ago because I couldn't afford anything like a computer, and just kind of kept using it ever since. Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine, isn't it? Paper and a pencil is all you need. And I think that's very commendable, because then you're more likely to learn proper skills, because an unfortunate common trait is fresh artists thinking that if they just invest in all the tech, that's the thing that makes them good to go. And say no. It's where programs like TV Paint have really do have a place, because it's just all about drawing. There are no tricks. There's no secret animation button to help get things done. And when people lean on those tools too much, you get clunky stuff. And I see it very regularly, in my students, depending on their background. I've had the ones where they are from proper animation backgrounds. I'll say this, my most difficult students consistently are classically trained Disney animators, because they're so good at what they do, right? They've been around for decades and they are amazing. And asking them to unlearn everything that they know for the sake of being able to use a harmony puppet or something like that is hard. It can be quite emotional. But those who embrace it and are able to sort of bite that bullet and be like, you know what, I need to pretend like I'm starting over just for a few weeks until I come to understand this new way of working. When they're able to apply those new tools with their already understood techniques, they're unstoppable, right? Because they understand the best of both worlds. Meanwhile, you got the opposite kind of student, which is the person who grew up with the technology first. Right? So they're very tech literate, They pick up the software, no worries. And, you know, like all of the jargon and complicated concepts that some really struggle with, that like they just get it. And I'm, you know, and I'm using really high-end metaphors to explain basic principles. Because, you know, like all of the nature of how nodes interweave and rig and all that sort of stuff, for some reason, makes more sense than a concept like anticipation and overshoot. And the common pitfall there as a result is animators who understand all of this backend, all of this technology, but then all of their work is real stiff. And it takes arguably a longer amount of finesse to get their work to feel better, right? Because like the traditional animator is just like getting over the hurdle of being able to get things to work at all is sort of the struggle. But once they're there, they're there. But the person with the tech background, it's more nurture involved, you know, like sort of like critiquing each piece, and then it slowly evolves and grows over time. But I found it quite fascinating how like demonstrating overshoot and anticipation, you know, a lot of things that we can take for granted sometimes when you come to understand the principles and stuff, and just seeing it like not click. And it makes more sense when you like show the freaking graph, you know, like these here, like those make more sense than just drawing it. I found that really interesting. Oh, that was I keep ranting. Where was I? Maybe I should jump to the front, because like when I go back and read old chats, we're talking about something from ages ago rather than if I talk about current stuff. Well, hang on, sorry. Oh yeah, that's right. I was talking with Anna about the flip note and stuff like that, and how that's all you need to like get things down. Like how you're better off using that, because then by the time you get to the advanced tools, all you need to do is learn the tool and you've already got the concepts down. But yeah, hit the nail right on the head. Thank you. Those who rely on digital tools too much won't know what to do if you place the pencil and paper in front of them. Same thing for if they are trying to do frame-by-frame animation without the use of those tools. And I feel like I can speak with a bit of authority on this topic, because this is me through and through. Like my biggest struggle by far. Heck, the story of this very stream is about that. I've always been the kind of person who has prided themselves on knowing a piece of software back to front, and then sort of assuming that is the battle won. And I learnt this lesson very young. Like I was pretty well straight out of high school, and I got a job as a graphic designer because I knew my way around Illustrator and Photoshop, and you know, Flash, and a little bit of InDesign, a little bit of Dreamweaver. So I was like, oh, cool. You know, I'm ready to go. And I went down that path because it was just what does the kid who spends too much time drawing in class do as a profession? Oh, I guess that's graphic something. I didn't think that animation or cartoons was an option. So I went into that, designing logos and business cards. And newsflash, surprise, surprise, I sucked at it. I was terrible. Like, just because I knew the program didn't mean squat. And that was an emotional journey. I came out the other end just being like, I hate graphic design, I want to do animation. So, I got back into that properly. But the thing is, I don't know if I ever learnt my lesson, because here I am, 14 years later or something, and my main jam is that I know Toon Boom well. Right? And most of the cool things that I make that I'm like proud of aren't due to me being a good artist. They're due to me being clever with the software and pulling off fancy tricks with it and stuff like that. Like this, right? So by using nodes in a clever way, I made the grid loop. Or where's some other examples? Where's the stretchy head? It's like my favorite. Yeah, this one. This, right? So this was a result of like wanting to muck around with the 2-point constraint, and the legs are like pegs on pegs. So it's like, oh, let's muck around with those features and see what the results are. And then we've also got. Do we have any Zerberbrain viewers? This was a fun one that was whipped up in probably like 3 minutes, maybe less, because it's just a still drawing with 2 quakes on it, giving it a really like fierce jiggle. So this gave me a lot of insecurity for a long time, thinking like I think most of us deal with imposter syndrome from time to time, right? So when you have like a channel and you're teaching people, and it's like, oh geez, like I don't know, like, do I know how to animate properly, or do I just know how to cheat good? And moments like those tutoring ones are kind of reassuring, because it makes me realize that a lot of these principles, like, oh, okay, I did come to understand this at some point, and I've probably just been taking it for granted a lot of the time, you know, like things like anticipation and overshoot, or squash and stretch, and, you know, like the 12 principles kind of thing. I didn't really realize how much that was sort of just like baked into my psyche, and I was doing them automatically, until I had students struggle to come to terms with the concept, even when being shown multiple times how it works, and, you know, going through exercises together and things like that. That was kind of reassuring. But then comes projects like this one, where I'm trying to animate frame by frame, and it's like, oh my god, like really tough, and kind of crushing in a few ways. But then again, probably just being hard on myself too, because when I show it to friends who do animate at this level and in this style regularly, the main consensus is more of one of just, I'm biting off more than I can chew. You know, like for those who have arrived a little bit later, I mean, look at, yeah, right? So I'm going to animate something frame by frame. Let's have it twist around and zoom right in and have fisheye moments. And like it's stupid. Like, don't go from 0 to 100 like that. Like, meanwhile, if I just, at least for the time being, if I stick to stuff like this, oh, hang on, that's going through my little grid generator again. Where's it? Just on its own. Stuff like this. There we go. That's fully traditional. And it took like 10 minutes. It was just, I think it's like 5 frames and it loops. So, I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going with this story. I guess it's like, if you're ever sort of struggling with your own ability, like, maybe reel it in a bit and don't do things that are like don't go too crazy. I've heard the best place for inspiration, or rather like for learning fast, is to tackle a project that is like 5% more difficult than your current ability. Something like that. Like if it's way too much higher, then it's just gonna be like, this is impossible, and you die. And if it's already something that you're fully comfortable with, then it's just routine. You don't challenge yourself. But if it's just a little bit more difficult than anything you've done before, you kind of look at it and you'd be like, I can do that. I've never done it before, but I bet I could do that. And if you think about it, that's how most video games work, right? With the learning curve, in like each level is slightly more difficult than the one before it. So by the time you get up to the final boss, you look back on the early levels and you're like, oh man, look how far I've come. And you came and you got there passively. Yeah, I think I've got a few exercises like that. There we go. Little practice at doing like a head turn or something. I'm just trying to get a little bit of form, but also focusing on like speed up and slow down. And then we'll relax and go back to my comfort zone with something that's more riggy. But then again, that was a bit of a good practice of movement as well, where things grew better. Oh, it's probably the comfort zone. Anyway. Back to drawing. Okay, now I apologize for any comments that I missed. If anyone knows of apps where I can highlight ones I've read so I can make sure that everyone gets the attention they deserve. I really need to track something like that down. Because Matthew Smith said, like ages ago, by the way, I'm working on a background and I need ideas. What's some funny things to find in drywall and crawl spaces? I guess skeletons is the obvious one. Treasure is probably the second most obvious, because like, where did it come from? Anything radically unexpected to find in a crawl space or a drywall. If it's an old house, maybe have like a smartphone in there. Or I don't know, it depends on what your story is, like I say. Going back to the discussion on Flipperclip and Flipnote on the DS, Studio Animal was saying that they'd love to see how I use it. I could give it a go and see. It'd have to be simple stuff like that blob I just showed off. All right, time for another read to catch up. I actually find myself drawing better on paper for some odd reason. Yeah, that makes sense. Because you've got more range, right? You use your elbow and your shoulder more, whereas on screens it tends to be a little bit more strict, using your finger and your wrist. It's more delicate. Things get a bit more jagged. Harder to draw perfect circles. Jesus the Jungle says, investment is nice, though I spent about 2 years with the cheapest drawing tablet I could get. Pressure sensing would go off and on randomly. Always disconnecting for no reason was hell. Only last week I got a Wacom Cintiq and oh my goodness, I'm in heaven. Oh man, it's a good feeling, that upgrade, isn't it? I remember it well. My Intuos 3 from 2007 still works, but I don't think I can go back from a monitor one. Although the one I'm using now has really stood the test of time. It's the 22 HD, which I think came out in 2012, maybe even 2011. So it's an old model, but they're sturdy, and most animators I know still use them. Wacom finally brought out a new version of the 22-inch, which looks really good. But, you know, artist rates tend to drive whatever equipment I have into the ground, rather than upgrading for the heck of it. John Jobs disagrees and says they tend to draw better on a tablet. My pen and paper skills kind of suck. I might be more on your level with that. I like being able to erase things and bend things around with vectors and stuff too much. I had the money at the time, but it's the one I have. Didn't make me any better. Lol. Didn't Rice Pirate make satire on that? Maybe, I'm not sure. Okay, I need to scroll forwards a little bit. Sorry, anyone who gets missed. John Job says, my jam was knowing Flash in and out. Yeah, I empathize with that a lot. I was really into Flash in the early days as well. Because there's like an infinite amount of stuff you can do with a symbol. And I feel like a huge part of that community was figuring out how to break the program in clever ways. It forced a lot of creativity out of people trying to figure out how to get the results they needed from supposedly limited software, especially considering that it wasn't even made for the kind of thing that most people tend to use it for. Jesus the Jungle says, dude, you're talking about my life. I dropped out of school and went into graphic designs course for lack of where to point my talent and hated it. There we go. Matthew Smith says, I started with an internship that bad. Oh, I started with an internship, that bad kind where you do work for free for like 14 months. I got let go because I asked for a paycheck. That's awful. Man, I'm so sorry to hear that you went through that. I have many long, heavy emotional rants about this kind of thing, having been through it personally, and a lot of people I know having been through it as well. It's an unfortunately abusive industry a lot of the time, isn't it? I hope you're in a better place now. Studio Anima says, hey, I say, if you can cheat to animate and it comes down to looking like animation, you win. Well, yeah, that's my philosophy. That's how I keep feeling good about it. But what am I going to do if Harmony ever falls out of favor and a different program picks up? I'm so scared of that. Because all the traditional animators, right? They're happily working away. Meanwhile, Flash and Harmony and everything else came up behind them. And, you know, they had to face that transition at some point. I'm nervous about being stuck in my ways when a new generation of artists already have a new way of doing things, and I'm being stubborn. Benjamin goes on to say, there's no cheating on art as long as you're not stealing. Yeah. There's just different ways to do things. It's very kind. Frame by frame can be crushing. I've done frame by frame for years. Yes, I know what you mean. Jesus Jungle says, no way, 0 to 100 is the way to go. All right, fair enough, I concede. An opinion that strong. Yep. Retro says, I got hit for infringement because the stars in my piece was too fat and puffy like a Kirby star, even though I did them by hand. What? Man, what's the story there? How can you get done in for drawing a star wrong? John Job says that they're going to head off. Good night. This was probably a while ago. I apologize if I missed you heading off. If you feel like you went up a step by the end, that's productive. Yeah, I agree. That's good. I did that with music composition when I learned guitar. It's very true. Every riff I'd come up with, I'd have to learn to play before I actually sounded good. I've had this sort of phenomenon recently with just like keyboard stuff. Like if we're doing Metroid tracks and whatever, I've had like a little MIDI keyboard just to the side of my machine for the last nearly a year. I barely know what I'm doing, but it's a great fiddle toy. And I've learnt a lot just passively while things render as a result. Oh, hang on. We're getting to the crawl space topic. Lockie says razor blades. Studio Anima says dentures. Matthew Smith says treasure skellies. Maybe a T-Rex skull. Oh, that's a good one. An entire apartment complex inside the crawl space. Now that's the best type. Lockie goes on to say you can literally find razor blades in the crawl space behind the bathroom sink in some old houses in America. Ooh. We don't use drywall where I live, so I have no idea. Greg says, when I first got my Cintiq, I went straight back to my Intuos 4 and didn't really use it much for a year. Oh no. Studio Anima's heading off. All right, take care. I probably missed your farewell as well. Man, I really need to keep up with these messages, hey. Montanez says, I feel like drawing with pencil and paper also feels less perfect, and that's good. I can't zoom in or undo, so I'm left to my instincts to have to rely on confidence. I fully agree. I think that could be really healthy. How many times have you zoomed all the way in on something and just like been super into that detail, then you zoom back out for the full view and you can't even see it? What were you doing? Matthew Smith says that this dodgy studio they were at shut down, so it's cool. The real tragedy is that all of the talented interns quit animating altogether. Yeah, that is a real shame that it was enough to kill that dream. I noticed that for a while when I was a bit younger. I was kind of like sort of mid-level at that time. I'd been around for probably about 5 or 6 years at that point. but it was in a studio where there were both people who were a bit older who had been around for ages and graduates. And those who were straight out of uni were like super optimistic and full of energy and really excited. And then everyone who was like late 30s, 40 plus, like dead inside. It's like kind of pessimistic, had no shame and just complaining about everything going on. And I was like, this is interesting. I wonder why that's a thing. It's kind of refreshing that they're, pulling no punches. Whereas like, because when you're only surrounded by graduates all the time, like the conditions can just be awful, and like no one says anything. Everyone just sort of deals because no one knows any better yet. So it was good hearing that being spoken up as well. But yeah, it seems like good communication is probably one of the most important things for all of us. Whoopsie, I just realized that chest lights are of an inconsistent design. Here they're Other M style, and here they are Prime Echoes style. Hang on, let's check earlier. What were they back here? We're at a completely top-down angle. We don't even see the chest lights. On the most part, she's wearing a Prime Echoes style suit. So I might rejig those panels if it's just for that frame. Because here and... yeah, okay. Yeah, we're going Prime Echo style. That's the best suit. Oh, by the way, keep an eye out for it. I'm not sure when we're going to get around to finishing editing it. But that Metroid rig I showed you before for the YouTuber Metroid Trainer, we did a collab together a little while ago. Just nothing special. We were just geeking out about Metroid stuff because I've always wanted to do that. But it's not really, I have an animation channel. I can't really just geek out about, my favorite franchises. So, I know. Let's go find, pitch to a YouTuber I watch if we can just do it together. And we did, and it was great. But then, like, 2 days later is when Dread was announced. So suddenly, a channel that's relatively like passive, like there's not really any news to talk about, you kind of just like chatting about whatever, suddenly became hot topic and very busy. So that I think sort of fell by the wayside for the time being. Hopefully we'll get around to launching it sometime this year. It was one of those things where it's like we were intending to speak for probably like 30 minutes and ended up having like a 3-hour chat, and it's like, is this a video or is this a podcast now? Do we chop it up into a whole series? Do either of us have the time to do that much editing? Am I going to get away with a hand that looks like that? It's pretty gross. I might do it again over here, and if that looks better, copy it across. Let's actually keep it as a unit all the way across. There we go. Jesus Jungle says, that is harsh, but Kirby was a pretty awesome game, just saying. Weird that Nintendo would go that hard, Disney style. Matthew Spin says, oh no, I'm 34, I'm about to become bitter. Well, it seems like you had that lesson early. So I wonder if that helps with it or not. Like I've often wondered, those who have like a really cruisy first couple of years to their career where everything's great, the first time, like if everything's fine for a while and the first time someone tries to take advantage of you comes half a decade into your career, what effect would that have on you psychologically versus having that happen right out of the gate when you're like 19 or something, or early 20s? I don't know. I'm trying to think of examples like that where someone has like been like properly taken advantage of later on. I remember being particularly crushing when that kind of thing would happen after I've already been around for a while. Like I've been working in the industry for about 9 years now. So to have people come up and try and get away with that stuff now is like I have very little patience for it. Very little patience for it. I suppose the good thing is that like hopefully I like to think that I have a pretty well refined bullshit detector now. I hope. We'll see what happens if I get exploited again within the next few years or not. Now, if this was to get... Alright, which hand do we prefer, everyone? Flat style? I should probably go with the bulky one, hey? That's just straight up a different style. And that's just not very good. That's weird, isn't it? It's like, do you have... Because the rough looks fine. But when it's cleaned up, it just doesn't look good anymore. Maybe I need to go back to the rough and tighten that up a little bit more. Just a little bit more. And I've got 2 frames of it if I need to. Greg says it's way better for it to happen much later on. Is that so? Is it because like you had a chance to like learn from what other people had been through and like you knew what to keep an eye out for, or like were you more shielded against avoiding that kind of thing, or were you still able to get sort of coaxed down the rabbit hole? Because like some studios can be like almost cult-like in their manipulation of people. And if you don't know what to look out for, it can be really hard to spot, because on the surface, everything looks amazing and dreamlike. And it's not until you've been there for a while that it's like, And because of the cult-like nature, it feels like everyone else is oblivious, right? Like there's like, because there's like gaslighting going on. People are being told things and question their reality, and everyone thinks like, oh, I must be the one who's causing the problem, rather than it being a systematic issue higher up. Oleg says, how do you like Toon Boom? I've done voices my entire life and decided I want to make a cartoon inspired mostly by Homestar Runner from way back. Now I'm learning myself. Yeah, I love it. I mean, there's a reason why I started a channel that talks about this program. If you're coming from a voice background and wanting to learn it, my question to you would be, what sort of animation do you want to do? Like, where do you fall on the spectrum? Because I never know how to answer the question of how do you use Toon Boom. Are you doing, frame by frame here, and then you got full rig here, and then what people don't realize is that you can fall anywhere along this line. So around here, you've got the kind of thing where it's mostly frame by frame, but it's enhanced a little bit. Like maybe you put the whole, like you're sort of drawing everything frame by frame. There's a timing chart for you. But then you put a peg on top and sort of like tween a little bit of your squash and stretch and stuff like that. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's like, it's sort of a rigged body made of parts, but each one of them is traditional. So like, you'd lop this arm off and draw a fresh one and have fully frame by frame arm on top of a skeletal body, and you can save time that way. And then there's just sort of like every nature of rig as well, because like the full high-end TV production ones, this is a different topic, I know, but a lot of the rigging tutorials you find out there, especially for Toon Boom, are very high-end. They're talking about TV and film, and I think that can be kind of misleading for those wanting to make online productions or personal projects, because these rigs take like 2 or 3 weeks full time to build, and it's you're going to be handing it off to a team of like 20 people to animate it for you. Meanwhile, if you land about here, basically like smack bang in the middle, you can have a sort of style where it's a bit of frame by frame, a bit of rigged, and you can sort of whip something up yourself in a couple of hours or whatever. Or maybe you're just animating from the start, like you just start drawing and you flesh it out as you go. You start putting pegs on top, you start putting deformers on them. So, you start animating a character and then you'd be like, oh, hang on, this arm needs to bend. Oh, let's put a deformer in it. And you just add it as you go. And you just, it keeps evolving on the fly. That's what I sort of recommend for online animators, because then you get the best of both worlds, where you're throwing something together in, a few hours, depending on what you need, and then getting that animation out of it at the same time. It's just a harder conversation to have than it would be for Flash animators, where there's sort of like a more consensus on how to do things. It's why I do offer personal tuition on top of the Onionskin videos that are, for free. Because sometimes it takes that, hey, let's sit down for like 3 hours, you and me, and discuss what you want to do and how do we achieve that goal. And, we do some personalized exercises and craft a curriculum and things like that in order to reach that goal as efficiently as possible, while at the same time discarding the stupid amount of information that is out there that is irrelevant to you as an artist. Like, nobody needs all of the tools in this program. Like, I kind of do, because I'm teaching it, so I need to know how everything works to explain it reliably. But, like, I'm in a huge minority, therefore. So, yeah, I apologize that it was indeed a loaded question. Yeah, lol, that is a loaded question, so, yeah, I'm actually terrible at hand-drawn, but people call me a Photoshop master, so I figured doing it via PC, I could do it. Sweet. Okay, great. That actually does narrow it down. I wanted to start this as a hobby on YouTube. If it ever goes anywhere, it is what it is. My kids would watch it when they're older. Fantastic. Okay, that actually answers my question perfectly. It sounds like you would probably lean more towards the actually a compositing end, if you're like a Photoshop person. So if you like doing voices and stuff, the style I would probably recommend to you, just off the top of my head, would be something that leans less on movement and more on effects. So think sort of like a graphic novel. Like, you ever see those e-comics where it's like a manga or something, but the layers are separated and the parts will sort of like slide into frame, and maybe there'll be like a flash of lightning or something like that, like just a bit of movement to sort of tell the story. I think that would probably benefit your currently existing skills the most, like based on like the 2-second conversation we've had, right, on what I know about you. That if you're coming from a background of Photoshop and voices, then that way, like I'm guessing therefore your stories would be more dialogue driven than visual. So that way you can, it's draw your characters like this. Hello. Hello. And then the movement would be sort of dynamic, just a matter of things like they would just sort of move into frame or something. This is like, okay, so he takes like a step forward, like that, and maybe it would have like a strong ease to it, so it's just kind of like, hello. That's way too fast. You would be like, hello. And then to sort of complement that, rather than going overboard on having too much movement or things like that, the Photoshoppy end of your skill set comes in here. In the node library is the filter section in particular. So there'll be a lot of features in here that you should recognize. So you've got curves, levels, blending is here somewhere, brightness and contrast, glows, gamma, all sorts of different blurs, focus, resizing tools, stuff like that, right? And all of these things can be animated over time. So you can do things like animate pull focus. So if you had a character in the background and the focus shifts from them to the person in front, then you can animate that. And that's a way that you can tell your story. A very common effect that I use is hang on, let me just give this a little bit of it's a matte resize, which just bulks up what already exists, like so. There you go. So if your style had that, then whatever you draw would automatically get a emboldened outline to it, which is kind of cool. And then maybe you'd get something like maybe a drop shadow. Slap that in the background. Let's get obviously this is just a demo. I'm not taking the time to really explain how all this works and why and stuff like that, but just to sort of like get your imagination going on how these tools may benefit you down the line. If we put a shadow over there, blur it out a little bit. Oh, that's too much. There we go. Cool. There you go. So there's like a sort of like simple effects that would sort of like give a little bit more flair than it just being a simple drawing or something like that. And then as you're sort of animating, a couple of cases might come along where it's like, you know what, I really need him to be able to like bend over. So in that moment, you would be like, okay, well, let's go get a deformer. Slap that in. And then go F6, and then bend him down like that. There we go. And whoop. There we go. Now it's got a little bit of a bend. And this little contraption here, like every effect that you do becomes it's modular. This is way cooler than Photoshop, in my opinion, because it is non-destructive. Every effect that you make can be ripped out, it can be turned on and off, it can be tested, and it can be reused reliably. So if I was to do something like grab a composite here and slap that in, now my character has become modular. I can rip this out, I can put something else in, and it will apply the same effects to it. So if I was to do that, if I get a second character here, pop them in, and draw them like so. There you go. You can see it's immediately creating the shadow in real time as I'm drawing. There we go. And okay, fill that in. And if I was to go to render mode, there you go. So it's already emboldened it. It gives it the shadow. All of that sort of happens on its own. And then the other thing that you'd probably do moment to moment to add a little bit of flair is to lean on drawing substitutions. So that's where you take a duplicate of the drawing that already exists and then modify it. So it's about combining the sort of like the peg stuff with the redraw stuff to try and get as much mileage as you can out of the drawings that you have. So in this case, I would do something like remove the eyes, and just drawing a God. What has happened to this? There we go. Sorry. Fill that in and then give it like a blink like that. There we go. And then so there we go. We've got 2 drawing substitutions in there. Eyes closed, eyes open. So then it goes back to eyes open again. And then, there we go. So whenever he needs to move, whenever he needs to blink, those 2 drawings are now there for me to grab whenever I want. So for someone with more of a Photoshoppy background, I think this sort of workflow is a great way to sort of lean on transferable skills that you sort of already have. But you can still like get the emphasis that you need, like when you need it, like a good balance of efficiency versus control. If you were to go the route of like learn full character rigging, which is like quite literally a career path that it takes like a whole year full time to learn, which I think is a lot of people see off the bat and get overwhelmed by it because like obviously, yeah. I hope that gives you some ideas on how you could sort of approach this sort of thing. But feel free to stay in touch with me on your journey as you give this a go, because obviously the most common thing that happens with people in your position, Oleg, is I want to learn how to make cartoons and then never get around to it. So, like do a pilot, like make like a 20-second thing to start, like start real small just so you can get something done, and then you get a taste for the process. What does this feel like from start to finish? Furthermore, it means that your scope is small enough that you can make something from start to finish on the trial period, right? So you can get a Harmony trial for free, make something from start to finish in that time, and then be able to make an informed decision on, hey, is this actually worth a financial investment as well? I'll remind again, the Onionskin Discord server is now open to everybody as of today. So the link for that is in the description. So if you go down this route, Oleg, like come hang out there, show us your results, your experiments. If you want any critique, feedback, there's a bunch of us there now that, are all at different levels of our journey. Happy to help. And if, I'm seeing your reaction here. I'll put it on the screen for everyone. The compositing stuff, which, I would agree is better than Photoshop, is so much fun. And it's almost rare to find people who have that level of enthusiasm that you just showed. And I'd love to see where your imagination takes you with this bin of tools. What I just showed you is the filter section. This is the full set. There is a lot. There are a lot of different ways to put things together, and they're all just base components as well. Like the magic is in how do you combine them, how you put them together and create your own effects. Your imagination is, you can make anything you can imagine. It's so cool. So Alex says, no man, I'm a physical therapist and my hands are breaking down. I need to do something that I'm able to do from anywhere. I have an office and equipment. So hopefully this gives you a balanced approach that you can be able to express your creativity within the circumstances of your day-to-day. So good luck with your first project. I hope to hear from you again. Because you said that you were about to head off, do so. Catch you later. Meanwhile, Matthew Smith has a technical question. Saying, I tried to make live animations with transparent backgrounds for Twitch. Can Toon Boom Harmony do that on its own, or do I need another programs? I tried. I think so. Hang on, just making sure that all this is no other pieces that I'm missing. So for live animations, do you mean like things that like get triggered by events, or in the sort of like those like anime avatars that people have where it's actually like mapped to your face and puppeteers in real time? That sort of thing isn't a Harmony thing, but I'm sure you could use Harmony to like get you part of the way there, like the way that you would sort of like break your layers down. I think that because that type of rigging, that's Puppeteered Live is more of a it's more of an application thing. Like I don't know very much about it. Is it, maybe it's like a Unity thing? I'm sure there's dedicated apps that do it. But it's a bit of a different universe. I intend to bolster up, like you can see, I've just had the onion sitting there idle this whole time. But hopefully I would like to get around to having a dozen or so like canned animations that I can trigger moment to moment when certain events happen and stuff like that. I've been testing, Odd Kid Toon says, I've been testing so many styles of animation for my channel. Toon Boom is what I'm looking at testing next. Thanks for this. Yeah, so Odd Kid Toons, tell us more about what you're hoping to try and test. Because again, like what I was just showing to Oleg, it really depends on how you want to express yourself, really. How much time do you want to spend on projects as well is a biggie that can dictate it. And yeah, like Harmony is a really interesting one to sort of try next, as you would phrase it, because there's an infinite amount of ways to use it. The way that you use it first may or may not be actually ideal for what you want. My probably main recommendation for when it comes to mucking around with the program for the first time for an experimentation point of view would be to, because there's 3 different tiers, right? Essentials, Advanced, and Premium. You'd start with, and you can get a free trial of each one. So like a 30-day free trial of each one. So technically you actually get 90 days of free software use out of Toon Boom every year, because it refreshes with each new version too. So to help not get overwhelmed by how, look at all these buttons, right? There's so many. It can be kind of overwhelming. Start with Essentials, because that's, it is what it is. Use that for a month. Then after that, grab Advanced. And then after that, grab Premium. And then you can sort of like level yourself up and try out the different parts and see how, that way you don't, come at it backwards, more or less. Jesus Jungle says, I'm a PT, big into human movement. From experience, knowing how the body moves, skeletal system helps with rigging. Yeah, it certainly would. To like know the names of the muscles and stuff would have a tremendous advantage to illustration. Hey, Alex says, I've added your Discord. Fantastic. I haven't been back over there yet since this stream started. I'm really curious to see how many people have arrived as a result. Really beyond to thank you for your time. I know that nothing in this world is free. Oh, thanks, man. Your attendance and things to talk about in the streams is enough for me here. Yeah, I wish I could do these streams more often. Odd Kid Toon says, honestly, I want to try to build a workflow that includes less software. Right now I'm using a bit of mix of Toon Boom, Cartoon Animator, Cartoon Creator, Premiere, Photoshop, etc. But I've been afraid of vector animation. I've never been good at Adobe. And nodes. I'm totally new to nodes. Right, okay, yeah, I see what you mean. So it's trying to scale things down is a bit of a venture for you. Well, thankfully Harmony is, it's named that for a reason. So I think that could really help in cutting down the amount of tools that you need. Like, I use Harmony for everything, which may or may not be healthy. But I'm afraid I can't really speak on the behalf of your workflow, because like I'm not familiar with Cartoon Animator or Cartoon Creator. Yeah. So like what do they do exactly? Like, how do they, you say that you're already using a bit of Toon Boom already. So how do these other apps integrate into your workflow? What about your workflow would you change in an ideal world? Oh, this is like my 5th attempt at this hand. I forgot I was even working on this. Vertex Gaming says, bro, which software are you using? This is Toon Boom Harmony Premium 20. It's the industry standard for 2D animation. Jesus Jungle says, the skeleton is the most helpful, just knowing where the bones connect in reality. Oh yeah, I already replied to that, cool. Alex says, how often are you live streaming? I believe I added you a year ago when you did a review of Toon Boom. Now that's a good question. I don't have a routine for it. I've always wanted to have a healthy routine for it, but consistency is probably one of my biggest struggles in life. But I have a full-time job now, which means, like before now I was like freelancing and contracting, which means that I would sort of like just do streaming and Onionskin when I could justify the time. But working full-time means that my routine becomes a little bit more, routine. So it really is up to me to figure out how to get personal projects and hobbies like this to fit. It is a Sunday evening where I am now. It's 6:10 in the evening. So I would like to stream at least once a week. But I can't really guarantee that it will be a consistent time because, you know, it's the weekend. Sometimes I just want to chill out. And during the week, I can't because I have, you know, contractual responsibilities. So I think rather than me suggesting something that I'm trying to commit to now, I'm just going to like, if I find myself streaming somewhat consistently and I can keep it up for a month or so, then I'll be like, hey, come here. But otherwise, Twitter and Discord, I'll always give a heads up about 12 to 24 hours before. Like I try to commit a day in advance whenever it happens. Next one, sorry. Winston says, I have a question. Just wondering whether there is a faster method of exporting all layers separately into separate PNG sequences. Oh, yes, there is. The process of renaming exports in right exporting each layer individually is just a tiny bit tedious over time if there is a better way. Oh, okay, because I was about to explain the write nodes, but it sounds like you're already doing it that way. And that's still a little bit of a headache. Is that, am I right in that understanding? I'll wait for a response so I don't answer it incorrectly. Odd Cartoons, Reillusion Cartoon Animator has a more Premiere style timeline and is easy to use motion tracking and Premiere style timeline, and it's easy to use motion tracking and pre-recorded motion. Ah, okay. That's pretty cool. But does that mean you can't draw on it? Alex says, if you're around Discord, man, I will keep in touch for sure. I'd be more than happy to pay you anytime if you help me during the journey. Cool. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Try and knock out that 20-second pilot or something first so we can see what you're made of. Odd Cartoons goes on to say Adobe Cartoon Cheetor or Creator is good for super fast camera tracked animation. They use it for TV shows for real-time animation. Interesting. Okay. Right. So they're both about a kind of motion capture. Is that right? Like using natural hand movements in an animated space. That sounds like a relatively dedicated thing. If that's like something that you lean on a lot, it may change in the future for Harmony, but at the moment everything is like keyframed by hand. So yeah, if you lean on a lot of motion captured animation, it sounds like you've developed a workflow that's pretty unique to the kinds of things that you like to do. Why am I on this damn hand for like an hour. Why is it sucking so much? Because I'm trying to figure out where the plates of armor start and end. I might come back to it later. We'll see. I've still got so many more frames to go. Oh my god, this is gonna look so weird. Okay, at least that one's just 3 frames of panning. Let's draw an arm cannon. I know how to draw the arm cannon. It's nice and clean. Wizard says, yes, kind of. Like I would have to rename each write node each time. And it's not exported to the... It's not connected to the export thing. Control-Shift-Y. What's Control-Shift-Y do? Oh, render write nodes. You have to rename them each time. That's interesting. So, I'm guessing, therefore, if you were doing it a way that wasn't using write nodes, you're probably going more traditional, where every single layer gets exported. I would probably recommend, more than anything, creating a template. Like, there isn't really a faster, like, built-in way, but you can make it easy for yourself later on. Like, if all of your shots are kind of this same sort of deal, where it's like, you know, right layer 1, right layer 2, right layer 3, etc., then maybe you would sort of just have these 4 in the library stashed for another time, named as such in the layer 1 or something like that. If they need to be named after characters and things, I don't really have an answer for that. There's probably ways, like hypothetically, this feels like something you could do with a script. Like, you might be able to commission a coder to build this tool for you, where it would, like, if there's a write node connected straight into a drawing layer or something, that you could get someone to make you a button that when you press it, it will take whatever this is called and then stash it in this field here. Don't take my word for it, but I have a feeling that that could be possible. Carrie says, I think the thing I'd consider is trying to talk about tracks your face and animates the rig you make based on your face movements. I think I've used it before. Oh, okay. I remember using one of those called Crazy Talk. It was called. It was used for a bit in one of the Doctor Who episodes I was on. However, it was very uncanny valley, I would say. So for the next Doctor Who, we went back to just doing it by hand. And I think that's what, when it comes to like the Twitch avatars and stuff like that, I have mixed opinions about it, because as much as I can respect having real-time puppeteered characters for a live stream, that pseudo 3D all-in-ones, like cel-shaded model with limited expressions, they're too uncanny valley for my taste. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because I haven't explored that part of the internet much. Because I would like to have an equivalent solution, I suppose, so that I could make the onion in streams like this more expressive. But I suppose it would be more of a gesture trigger thing. Like, if it picked up on a particular expression, it would fire an animation that I tailored by hand, so that it's a little bit more specific. Odd Cartoon says, my most recent cartoon I made frame by frame, Premiere and Photoshop only. It has real sketch flip book feel, and it's the more popular style I've released. That's why I want to get into Toon Boom. I see. You know what? I should have a look. It's a shame that I can't just click on names in the chat and it takes me to the channel. But you don't mind, do you? If we all take a glance together. Odd Kid Tunes. There we go. Alrighty, so what do we have here? So is there a particular one that you're talking about? Like I'm on your channel page now on my other monitor, by the way. Is there a particular video or episode that you're talking about here that you would like to me to take a glance at? My First Soda. I see it.
This is Rick. He's currently making more than 3.
Let that do the thing. So annoying. I got YouTube Premium on my regular account, but then the Onionskin one still gets ads. Hang on.
Separated.
I don't know if my sound
mother was
output's
afraid
working.
Me and my sisters would get fat from eating junk foods, so she never let us have them. I didn't even get to eat my candy on Halloween. Sad, I know. After my mom divorced my stepdad, she decided she needed alone time, so she sent me to live with my dad. My dad had a completely different outlook on life than my mom. Where my mom wanted everything to be perfect, my dad lived every day as if it was his last, because basically, every day was his last.
Cool. So I won't give spoilers or whatever. Because we are focusing mainly on the visuals at the moment. But what I'm mainly seeing is that we're focusing on strong key poses, drawing substitutions. There's a little bit like the only like movement we've seen is like that and the suitcase and stuff like that. So I think what will probably really help you out the most, and ironically it's my most popular video by a huge margin. I think it's one of the top results if you search for animation tutorial. It's called Simple But Effective. And it talks about this kind of thing that you're doing here, but enhanced by having like a peg on top. And then when you shift from pose to pose, you can just get like a little bit of bounce or extra flair to it. In regards to, was it you that was saying that you're sort of hesitating when it comes to drawing with vector for the first time? Because I think you're actually someone who will benefit massively from it, because there's instances of bitmap that's actually holding you back a little bit, namely here, because you got a textured brush, right, which is really cool. However, you probably found textured brushes don't play so well in Photoshop because the paint bucket will go right up to, only go up to the edge of the texture, giving you this sort of ugly white edge to the middle. So if you were to do the same sort of style over here, what I would recommend is you have a layer for each character, just called like dude or whatever, and then let's get you a similar texture. You'd use the pencil for this. The pencil has lots of textures in it too. They're not as diverse as the brush ones. However, oh, hang on, I might be wrong. Let me test something here. Because if I do a brush like that and then fill it, yeah, you get that same issue where it's just up to the edge, because the vector goes around the edge, right? However, if you use the pencil, its vector goes through the middle. Ooh, so therefore, if you use the pencil tool, looking down these presets, now these are all mostly just tapering presets, but there is this button here. If you click on that, there is a texture tab, and in there, these are just presets. You can add your own. It's just literally any image, just like export a PNG of whatever. But what's the closest to what you're using? Something like this, I guess. The felty one is kind of soft. So, hang on, I've got some reference. Try and draw your character, more or less. Yeah, you get some free fan art today. Not free. I mean, everyone does fan art for free. Anyway, is that even doing the? It is the texture, but it's not quite as soft as your one, is it? That's a bit better. I like something a bit softer still. Maybe grain. What do you think? Should I do something like stringy just to like really get the point across? Let's do that. No, we'll go with felt. That, I guess. Centerline smoothing? No. I wish I could just sort of make it a bit bigger. But I'll have to make my own one for that. Anyway. So, a character like yours would have, I think, probably 4 layers. Okay, like I'm actually going to build him. I'm getting a little bit over the top in this demo, so you know I hope you're still here because you're about to get a lot of like tuition because I'm getting carried away. But to build this character in Harmony in a way that's like efficient, I would recommend you would go body, eyes, pupil, arms, legs, something like that. And then we stitch them all together. Draw each one. So let's quickly fire through that. I'll draw them in the same pose, more or less. Is that still it is still it's just, I'm so not happy with that texture. Let's go with charcoal. That's very clear that it is a texture. I know it's a little bit different to your one, but forgive me. So body is going to be a bit cruder in the illustration than yours as well. You've got a really clean line art, but whatever. So eyes will include the brow shape. So notice I've got both arms going on the same layer. So depending on your style and intensity, would really like drill in on whether or not you would want to separate them out. I'm keeping them on the same one for the sake of simplicity and just going on the style of movement that I've seen so far. That like, because you're really focusing in on having strong key poses rather than each part moving properly and independently, this will probably be the fastest way to recycle and get the most mileage out of the drawings that you do. Because it seems like more often than not, both arms are going to move rather than just one of them. But it means that you don't have to redraw the whole character or whatever each time, right? And then the eyes are, wow, that's still textured. Go back to brush. I apologize if you're talking in the chat right now, because when I get into focused demos like this, I seem to be completely incapable of taking my eyes off this screen. Otherwise, I will get distracted. Okay. It could have turned out better. Whatever. A thing is a thing is a thing. All right, white. And don't forget that there is also stroke mode. So it's like an invisible pencil. So you can just go like that. And then arms, they are white as well with... And finally, legs are... I know they're not that tinted red, but I'll have to do that. Okay, next. Let's quickly rewire it into the right order. I think that's all I needed to do there. Okay, so on the most part, each one would have a peg just for the heck of it, because that's just sort of what you do. But I would imagine having it broken down to this level means that you get a huge amount of mileage out of each substitution, right? Because each one of these layers has currently one drawing substitution in it. So if you need to change this pose, then you just delete the arms. Oh, by the way, the thing I forgot to mention before is that by using the stroke tool, you will see that the fill goes up and into it. so it doesn't clash on the edge like what's happening on your coins and stuff. It's going to play ball. It's going to be in there and be good. Anyway, there we go. So another set of arms, and they're there now in the substitution library, and sort of flip back and forth between them if you want. And the technique that I love for this style of storytelling, so that it isn't just key poses, if you want to fudge in just a little bit of movement, and that's what kind of makes the difference between people treating your short as like a glorified automatic or treating it as an animation, is just by adding that little bit of bounce. So on this top peg here, I'm just adding in 2 keyframes that are really close to each other. And then on this, hang on. So this first one here, I'm going to get the scale tool, put the pivot down here, and squish it down just a little bit like that. And then on this one, I'm going to pull it up and in a little bit like that. Hang on, I think I'll stretch these out a little bit. That's going to have an ease of about 70, and this one will have an ease of about 40 in, and then go, ooh, there we go. So it gets just a little bounce to it like that, right? It's when you get the easing right and time it in a good way, it can be pretty appealing. And what's cool now is if we were to put the gesture shift right in the middle of that, so like as he wheels down, and so it's like wheeling down and then springs up and then settles. But if it happens right when it springs like this to there, check it out. Ah. Woo. You kind of get away with not having to in between it. It actually looks more like it's moving just a little bit. Like, you know, the more in betweens you add, the better it will look, of course. But the cool thing about this method is that because the animation itself takes place on the peg above, it means you can recycle it later. So if you have a different pose, or it recycles back, or it blinks, or whatever else happens, I just got to copy and paste this bit. Make sure it's lined up good. There we go. Right? So it's really fast. So it's sort of like stitch things together. And you have like maybe a bank of like half a dozen different variations of bounce, so it doesn't become too obvious that you're just doing the same thing over and over again. It can be pretty cool. So anyway, I may be going off on a completely you tangent of like, you probably didn't animate it this way because you're not interested in animating it this way. And if that's the case, I apologize. I'm just trying to like get some more ideas flowing. I'm going to catch up on some comments to see if I was or not. So where were we? Sorry. Yes, I don't have a lot of fluid movement because my first time trying this, I did watch that video that actually inspired me, and yes, vector has been my weakness. Yeah, so hopefully using the pencil vector tools in particular, that'll help you out, because then you get to continue using textures while the paint bucket will respect that. Furthermore, you should be able to get more control over your line as well. So if you're like not happy with this curve, rather than having to draw it again, you can just get the white arrow here and just sort of tug on it. And that should respect the fills as well. So if I tug on this head, then, you know, that fill's gonna do that. So then maybe rather than drawing new eyebrows, I could do a duplicate. So now there's 2 eyes that are the same, and I'll just tug that one up, tug that one down. There we go. Now I've got 2 different eyebrow shapes, just like that. Easy. Really fun way to work, and really fast way to work too. Because you don't have to overdo it. Like, this counts as a character rig, and it's just like, you know, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it doesn't need it. You know, because looking at your short, the amount of different poses it had were quite extraordinary. Like, the characters move around a lot. So a structure as simple as this means that you can work within a consistent environment, but without ever feeling restricted to having to use particular tools. You can express however the character needs to draw, or V, or whatever. Okay. So I missed some comments here. Basker asked what software you're using. This is Toon Boom Harmony. If people are asking that in the chat, by the way, I may not get to it in time. So if you're able to, if some of you who are more frequent viewers could respond as well, that'll help me out. I appreciate it. Matthew Smith says, "Oh crap! I've been using my personal YouTube account this whole time." Oh, do you have another alias that, you know, like, do I know you under a different name? Oh, hang on. I saw someone else who wanted me to have a look at their project, but I lost the comment. Hang on, I need to have a bit of a search for it. Back to scrolling. Is both tracks feasible now? Oh, confirm with frame animation both, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we talked about that. My first soda, yeah, there we go. I just got Toon Boom for story time and for animation in general. Great, yeah. So I think I'm David Animation. The kind of style that I was just demonstrating there, that should be pretty useful to you as well. Matt Make Cartoon says, "Ooh, can I show you my 2020 project? It's almost 20 minutes long, so I don't have to watch the whole thing." Yeah, I'd love to. Obviously, we won't watch the whole thing, but I'll take a brief glance at it just from a, just like it'll just be like from a technical standpoint. Just have a look at some of your style and movement techniques and stuff like that, if you're interested. And are you after something in particular? From what like do you want a particular kind of critique or feedback or anything like that? Also, Matt Makes Cartoons. I'm on your page right now. There's a good more than a dozen episodes here. Oh, hang on. No, I see it. There's one that's 23 minutes. Animated Let's Plays compilation. Okay, so I guess that's a collection of all the other videos. Let's take a look. So this is Matt Makes Cartoons. It's posted in 2019, so I take it this is probably not the 2020 collection. I apologize. But there's no other 20-minute video here. So unless you tell me otherwise, we're going to look at this one. So I apologize if this is one that you did not want shown to my viewers. Matt Makes Cartoons. It's both Matts. Okay, cool. The audio was done in a cardboard box. Fair warning. All right. Let's have a look.
Are those friendly? Are those friendly?
Oh no! Ooh, you have bombs, it says.
I'm not sure if the audio output. I'm not sure if the audio output is something that you guys can hear.
Oh, that guy's
You got one shield and you got 2 bombs.
Oh, no, cheat!
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Cool.
Whoa, you already know.
Sorry, I'm going to keep the audio off if that's okay, because we're looking at the visuals more thing. This is pretty impressive. There's like a good balance of like a range of different methods here. Like you got some peg stuff, you got some curved deformer stuff, you got some drawing substitutions as well. All of it's got like 2 or 3 tone shading. If there was anything that I would like offer as feedback or to like try more of, it would be to refine your easing. So like it's kind of like what I was speaking of a little bit ago, where there is great use of the technology and the features and the tools, but what's missing a little bit is use of principles in a clever way. So there's some instances there where we got things speeding up and slowing down. There we go. That one was easing in. But for some of the more casual gestures like that, do you see that? Where like everyone sort of like leant back and then came back in again. And it's like rigid back, rigid in. Whereas if we were to have, I'm gonna do this like real simple. But actually no, let's do it to this guy. Does this character have a name, by the way? Because like, if it's cool with you, because I like to have Odd Kid Tunes, by the way, if you're still here. I try to put all of my working files available for patrons after I'm done. So like it's kind of like a weird catch-22, isn't it? Because it's like I want to be able to like put this out for everyone, but it's like I'm putting it behind my paywall, and I feel weird about putting other people's characters out. So I'm gonna need your permission if you're cool with that. If you send me an email, I can send you this character on his own for nothing, though. Of course, it's your character. But I'm going to enhance it a little bit with that movement that that Matt was just showing. Anyway. Okay. So, for movement, so I apologize, Matt, if this is like something that you've already practiced and sort of gotten on top of, but hopefully it'll be useful to others as well. So I'll stretch this exposure out a little bit. So we've got now, from what I saw, the movement looked a little bit like this, where it sort of arcs down like so, and then they sort of just, oh crap, did I like I didn't keyframe the peg, not the deformer. I'm such a dummy. Ding, 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 and then everyone leans backwards and then comes back up. Now let me check again. Did they pause when they were down, or was it just a single? Yeah, no, it's a single movement, roughly equally spaced. All right. Oh, why is my enter key not working properly? All right, there's the end of the animation. End of the scene. Okay, nearly there. Your one's leaned down further, and it's a little bit longer. So I want to try and get it pretty similar, and then sort of show you how we could. I have a feeling you tilted it down with a peg as well, not using a deformer. Yeah, that's all peg stuff. Maybe I should have done that because the curve is going to give it a little bit of a shortening. Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm going to reset this, do it even more simply still with a... oops. What? Draw the circle with just a stick like this. And this shape is going to have the pivot down there and the exposure out like this, and a keyframe here, here, and here, and it's going to tilt down. Hooray. Wow. That's kind of like what you have, right? Seamless. Can't even tell them apart. Hang on, where have you gone? I want to say that animated Let's Play before I started using deformers. Yes. Okay. No, that's cool. Because the main thing I'm pointing out isn't really like deformer use, but rather like 3 a.m. you should go to bed. But after you watch this demo. Okay. Sorry, it took me so long to get that set up. But let's see how we can have that react. I would say, first of all, let's compress it a bunch. Have it a little bit shorter. And it's super extreme. So at the beginning, it is reacting. Something is like shell-shocked, right? So we want it to be speeding up. And then it's going to slow down, but it's going to slow down quite... It's still pretty abrupt, so let's try 20 on either side. But then they settle quite properly, so we're going to have an extreme ease of about 80. Let's see if just that made a difference. It didn't. That looks terrible. My bad. I think it definitely needs a settle. Definitely. So it needs to come back this way a little bit as well. So then that will probably be about 30, 30, and then this will be a 70. So I think this is probably the main piece that was missing, having like a bang. Alright, well, it doesn't need to be quite as far. No, we'll have the I'll take it back. Let's have it hold that far back. Or at least 0, 0. Want it to hold for longer. So what if that was 80? And then that was 0. No? No, it's got to be a little bit. 20. It's getting there. It's getting there. I think one other thing that your characters had, which gives it a little bit more potential than what I've got, is the heads and the bodies are separate. So I'm going to copy that too. So now head and body are on their own layers. And I'm going to take the same information and put it up here. The head pivot there. And they're going to be daisy chained. So body goes first, then head goes. Watch how much it cranes back now. Breaks the neck. And then, so not only is it going to swing back, and then also swing forwards a little bit, I'm going to delay it. Delay it by 1. There we go. See that? Now there's like a swing, a delay. Check that out. See that? It's kind of cool. Now, if you were to be really crazy, because I'm getting carried away now, if on this, drill down to the individual parameters. Now, this is, I'm getting over the top. I'm sorry. But if I took the X and the X, no, I think I'm going to need to do it for both X and maybe the skew as well, to like give it a smear sort of thing. If it was like, no, that's stupid. Forget that. Yeah, I hope the stream is like playing all of the frames. If it's skipping anything, then it's gonna lose some of its pizzazz. Oakington says, I'm all about learning more and collabing cartoons. What I want to do. I retired from filmmaking, and this is what makes me happy. Just if I can get the viewers to like it. It's always the struggle, hey. Right, hang on, let's see if I'm on the right track with what Matt's after. You got to see the first minute of Flake and Bacon now. Hoo boy. Okay, so this, hang on, this short that I was watching here, are you saying that there's like a noticeable improvement over the time period, or? Because like I can pick on other things if you really want me to, like you know, like I started this whole project with line thickness inconsistencies, and we got this spaceship with big thick ones. This guy's are a bit thinner. The asteroid has thinner lines, and the planet hasn't got any at all. Like, yeah, of course, it's fine. But it's one of the things that I would probably pick out if you were giving this to me for review. Oh, hang on. My internet's starting to slow down. If my internet goes down at any point, it's because my housemates are microwaving, and that makes my internet go down. So bear with me. All right. Oh yeah, there's actually a variety of different styles here. I apologize, Matt, that I didn't have like a big scroll to like get a feel for your range of stuff, because I guess this is a Game Grumps one here. Cool. Anyway, I should get back to my project now. But I hope sort of seeing that little demo helped a little bit. I thought that was kind of fun. If anyone else wants me to have a look at their stuff, please do so. Maybe not today, but it is like a large part of streaming that I really like to do. Oh, wrong display. If I get into streaming more regularly, it's something that I'd want to do at least a few times every time, if that makes sense. Where is the color card? Did I put this in the wrong spot again? Something's wrong. Something's wrong with what I'm displaying. There's my cleanup stuff, but then no. Hang on. Why is the cannon appearing on that layer? That's not right. Oh no! In all the chit chat, I've gotten my wires crossed. Things are appearing in the wrong spot now. Certain layers are on and off at the same time. Look at that. That's no good. What's happening there? Did I turn different layers on for the sake of demo? Okay, that's off. That's on. And then where did I started drawing the cannon. Oh, hang on. Oh, I know what's going on. I'm just later on the timeline because I had a few goes at it. So we spin around, and then yes, I did potentially draw the cannon on the wrong spot. Now, why on earth would I do that? Off you come, back to the cleanup layer. All right, let's get back to work, huh? Maybe time to bring in some help as well. Always a catch-22. The big rants are fun, but I don't get my project done. But if I get my project done, things around here get kind of dull. Hiya. Get in place. Didn't see the start of this project. Was this made from a storyboard or a script? It was, here it is. I took a crack at it to start with, which looks like this, which was pretty clunky. It's not bad. Like, I was happy with it, but I'm not experienced at this kind of thing. So I showed it to a friend who is, and he's really good. And he came up with this. It's like, I was just like, can you give me some notes? Can you red pen this? But instead, Christian just sort of redid it again. And it's amazing, right? So good. So then I was like, okay, do I use this as inspiration to like do something else from scratch? Or do I like build up from here? Do I like do tie downs and clean up on this? And maybe add in some extra in-betweens and stuff like that. And that's what I ended up going with in the end. So this is sort of a bit of a combination. The purpose of the project is for a multi-animated project. It's recreating the Smash Ultimate trailer. Everyone's just sort of like grabbing a character each and then just animating them. I grabbed Samus because she's cool. And it's been like seriously like a year in the making or something, because like, you know, it is a volunteer project. It had to be like super low priority, to be honest, but that meant I simply didn't make the time for it, basically ever. I haven't worked on it since probably about February or March, and I am super busy with other things as well. But the organizer was basically saying like, we need to bring an end to this soon. Like basically end of August. I'm like, oh crap, okay. So I was like, you know what? Let's just dedicate Sunday afternoon to it, and let's live stream, and hopefully one or two people will come keep me company while I do so. Because I probably, you know, honestly should be finishing client work, you know, paid jobs. But I feel like turning it into an onion skin project sort of justifies it, don't you think? The movement in camera 360 is just a sketch is amazing. Yeah, right? I definitely bit off more than I could chew in my attempt. And Christian sort of took that vision and reinvented it in a really cool way. So you can sort of see what he did with it. Because like my angles are really vanilla. It's like straight on, and then it goes to hard profile. And then it twists around in a way that would be really difficult to sort of keep track of. Because like you got this like tricky low angle here, and then I think the final note was that we're looking at the rear of the character, but it's like no, check this out. If the character goes back and then lands at an angle like this, then you get like the cool superhero landing, and there's like some like some cool perspective and stuff in there. And this will probably actually be easier to draw because there's like more form to it and stuff. Then you've got, because the ground is there and it's clear, rotating it around has like you can sort of feel the direction the camera is going in there, rather than it just being like the character pivoting. And then we, you know, like again, more angles. Like I was sort of just looking straight at her face, whereas here we got like a cool down angle and stuff like that. More intensity and expression in the face. And then, you know, cool speed lines and stuff like that. And then the other big change was shifting the angle for the actual shot to looking at her still. Like we follow the beam, like she cascades off into the distance as the beam fires. So good. So it's been a joy when I have been able to make the time to do clean up on this, because just by doing the tie down pass, like taking those rough keys and trying to figure out, okay, where do the in-betweens go? How do I time them? How much detail goes into this bit? I've learned so much just from having that foundation and doing it. And I feel like by not finish this project, I'm doing myself a great disservice, because, you know, getting such cool animation to work with just because you asked nicely for it is really rare. I'm very lucky to have friends so talented that I can lean on and ask advice for. So, you know, let's not waste that. And if I take that advice well, then hopefully I can do what we're doing now. Hopefully some of those lessons can be passed on to a wider audience as well. And then, you know, everyone can, even more people can benefit. Which I think hopefully helps them in the long term too, because like finding other animators of that quality to hire is difficult to come by. Will this live be available after it's bedtime for me tomorrow? Yes. Yeah. For a little while there, I was like, should I make my previous live streams like I was going to go through and edit out the highlights and upload those as full videos, and then the live stream itself was just going to be like a bonus content for Patreons. But editing like 6 hours of idle footage like this is real tough. because particularly like, sorry, I know this is another like random discussion, but so like those demos I did before, you know, for those couple of people who were showing off their shorts, and I was like, hey, you can make this, and then I like just freaking make a thing. Like that is a tutorial in of itself. I could go into my timeline and crop that out and just upload it verbatim and be like, yay, video's done. However, funnily enough, going in and cropping that out and trying to turn the live demonstration into a tutorial is weirdly more work than if it's a planned tutorial from the start. I think what I should do instead is sort of take what I learned from teaching it, being like, hey, this is information that people have explicitly asked for, therefore it should make for a good video. Let's do it again in an isolated recording environment as opposed to a live stream performance environment. Then it can be a little bit more concise. Or maybe if some people are super keen on onionskin content, they can just go through the timeline of this finished uploaded stream and then add the title chapters to stuff. That'd be cool. I certainly can't be bothered doing that. Have you ever sat down and rewatched 6 hours of yourself speaking? It's nauseating. I do not have the ego for that. I feel like I already have enough of one just by talking non-stop for this long. Ugh. Anyway. Odd Kid Tunes says they are blown away by the animation, right? It's yeah, here too. Animation is one of the most needed skill sets since many of the American cartoon studios here now, DreamWorks, etc. So it's hard to find anyone to Q&A with. Wait, what do you mean? Many of the American cartoon studios are here now. Yeah. So it's hard to find anyone with time. Oh, right, with time, because they're all busy at their office jobs and stuff, you mean? Yeah, I feel like when it comes to like learning, sorry, this is something that I've always intended to do a video of as well, but I can just sort of give the same speech here now. Speech, jeez. Hang on, that should I be drawing the whole gun? Yes. Like the like when it comes to like role models or peers, friends that you learn from, that kind of thing, there's sort of 3 different types of people I've found, or 3 levels, and all of them are super useful. There's your sort of like your role models, right? Like those who are like way better than you, and it's just like, oh my god, I want to be you, you're so good. But you have the privilege of being able to like talk and learn from them and that kind of stuff. And it's sort of like the delicate balance sometimes, because like if you're not careful, inspiration could turn into envy, right? If it's just like, oh man, I'll never be this good, this is crazy. How are they, you know, you can start to feel left behind if you are only surrounded by that kind of person. Meanwhile, there's the opposite scenario where you're kind of the big fish, little pond, where people are looking up to where you're at. You know, most of your peers are earlier on in their journey than you are. So you get to take on that role of mentor or whatever, which itself can be really, you know, inspiring, because like you learn the most probably while you're teaching and things like that. However, there's only so much to sort of show off, because, you know, I don't think I really need to explain the pitfalls of not being able to be surrounded by people who inspire you. It really is a balance. Like you need both, right? Too much of either one or the other can start to be a little bit unhealthy. Not unhealthy, but like can hold you back. The third type, arguably the most important, which I don't hear talked about very much, or I think for the biggie, is the sparring partner. Someone who is pretty much at the same level that you are. So you, it's not necessarily competitive per se, but you spur one another on. And that kind of relationship is really hard to find. I think sometimes, like, you know, some of the most successful people, like, it comes out of that environment, because it's not always like two people with the exact same skills who are at the same point, but rather complementary skills. You know, like it could be someone like a musician and an artist who are at a same level in their respective art, and how they would work together and bounce off one another and stuff like that. I think we've seen it a lot over the last few decades with, say, like a programmer and an animator. You know, how would those two like make games together where one person can like you know, like someone draws a cool character and then, you know, the programmer's like, oh, you know, like, what if we made them do this? Oh, okay, well, if we made them do that, then they could have this thing, and then like you draw that, and you know what I mean? Like each idea builds up upon the other. Anyway, it seems like a lot of people are heading off now because it's like 3 a.m. everywhere. That's fair. I really want to keep going. It is 7:15 for me. I will have to stop for dinner at some point as well. However, when I do stop, I probably won't be able to come back tonight. So I want to get as far as I can into this. So, let's see what can happen. So those 3 drawings are done. I don't even think I need to redraw all them because I just got to color them. Oh, that's cool. The gun starts to open a bit. I will draw that one. See, I've forgotten what's in my own dang keyframes. Cool. Okatoon says, true, as a business owner, I've always believed in hiring people better than I am at whatever task I need. I know I'm not the best, but I have the ability to inspire my team to do their best. Yeah, I think that's a really healthy attitude. You know, the boss, the supervisor, or the producer who sort of knows where their expertise begins and ends is really good. Because, like, you know, that's kind of the whole point of having a team, isn't it? Like, you grab people who are more professional at that particular thing. So it takes the pressure off you a bit. It's weird how some people who own businesses and studios don't get that. It seems so obvious. Jesus Jungle says, I feel kind of bad after all the things you were saying about wanting to get your animation done, but I have a question. Nah, it's okay, shoot. If it's giving me just things to talk about, then that's good. The problem is that I want to stop and give demos and make things and show stuff. And that's the thing I don't really have time for. Unfortunately, I would really like to do streams where that is the goal. It is like, let's come on and let's look at people's work and do demos and do all that sort of thing. Unfortunately, there's never any guarantee that I'm going to have viewers at all. So if I was to go do that thing and then there's no one here, so there's nothing to talk about. And because there's nothing to talk about at start, no one comes by to stay. So I sort of need something to at least get the ball rolling. I hope I'm talking loudly enough, by the way. It's getting a bit late here, so I've been talking a bit softer. Tell me if I should talk up or if I'm getting mumbly or anything. So I was wondering, says Jesus of the Jungle, if there was a way to morph a solid color object, like a tribal sign, and have it morph into a different shape. Currently, I'm doing it frame by frame and just drawing it. Also, I would be at that thing. Okay, cool. So like a shape tween for a complex shape is what I'm hearing there. If it's like a tribal design, it's not just something like going from a circle to a square, right? It's got like all sorts of odd shapes sticking out everywhere, and it's turning into something else. Oh, you're in Sydney. Sweet. So time is probably perfect for me if you did that. Yeah. Well, I'm in Melbourne, so that's good. I grew up in Sydney. I know it well. What area are you in? Because there's only a handful of studios in Sydney. I think there's about 3 that I know of. I wonder if we are you working? Are you in any of those studios? I wonder if we have any mutuals. Oh, Newtown. That's where Flying Bark is. But yeah, for morphing a tribal shape into another one, I actually think frame by frame is probably the best way to go. Because like, how do you get an algorithm to figure that out? Even like hypothesize the cleanest way it could possibly happen, and it would still be probably odd at best. But if you did it by hand, not only do you get to be relatively sure that it's going to work well, but you get to choose. There's more than one way to morph something. It isn't just going from a straight A to B. Maybe certain parts of the shape will be more dominant and move first, or maybe they would like disconnect and swirl around the whole shape, and that way you can give a lot more character to the morph as well if the timing is varied and shapes have different prominence and stuff like that. Odd cartoons are related to your animation for the pieces of the gun that are separating. Would it be beneficial to treat it like a 3D animation and make separate pieces and use layering and slide them back and forth? I did think about that. On any regular day, I would do that. However, this is like I'm very deliberately trying to practice hand-drawn with this project. And it's also only on screen for literally 1 frame. So it's one of those cases where you sort of stop and make the decision on, is it going to take it where it's actually quicker if you just draw it than if you tried to separate it and build it and be all fancy. So check it out. It's closed, then it's open, and then like that's it. That's it. Yeah, in an earlier draft, I had it like separating in a few different pieces and then spinning around and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I've got an old example from because prepping a particular movement just like that, even when it's built, is oh man, where did I put it? I can't be bothered finding it. I'm going on a tangent. I have like a big mechanical door that I did once that has lots of sliding parts, and it's sort of done in the way that you're describing, and it sort of shows the pros and cons of doing it that way, because it's like, yeah, all these sliding parts is really cool. It's really dynamic and there's things happening everywhere, but it also means that everything can only ever be seen from one angle. You can't have things rotate around, like only like on the Z. But on the other end, like, you are right that there are some parts that I could at least pick up and move like this, as opposed to erasing and drawing. This I can just grab and shift. As a grand plan for hang on. I started this. Sorry, Jesus Jungle says I started this because I've wanted to do it for basically ever, and after COVID, I just had time to learn it. That's what I was thinking. I have this grand plan for a film clip of a song that I made that's going to have a lot of that kind of stuff. So I was trying to figure out a way to do it a little faster. Yeah, fair enough. Cool. Yeah, things are fine down here at the moment. I think everywhere across Australia is more or less the same at the moment, where we just got to hunker down again. Animators are in kind of a relatively good place considering. Was this in the news today, or was it last week's ones? I haven't checked it today. So I was just having a quick look at the news to see if there was anything. I don't see anything. However, hang on, where's my dang live stream box gone? Yesterday. Yeah, it's kind of fine. Like, you probably know how it is. Like the not to get too political or whatever, but the things happening in Melbourne get over exaggerated in Sydney news by a long way. Like a long way. If like the same event is happening in both states, it is like if something like I think we're at 90 cases today. And a lot of the news seems to be painting that as worse than Sydney dealing with 1,200. It's very strange. But, you know, we've sort of been... A lot of Victorians have sort of gotten used to dealing with getting thrown under the bus a lot. It's pretty exhausting, but, yeah. Anyway. Animation. Where was I? I'm just drawing a cannon. I see there is still hovering on around 20 concurrent viewers at the moment, but we've only got a couple of people chatting away. So you know, feel free to get involved. Let us know where you're at, what you're doing. Like Snuffix Art here. Hello, welcome, new subscriber. Just wanted to say hello, welcome. How have you been? What are you up to? What brings you by even? Like I guess more so like where are you at with your like you've got art in your name. I presume you're doing animation to at least some extent. What's your jam? Look at that hand. I did not draw this hand. I can't take credit for how nice this hand looks. However, it does need a little bit of tie down because you can't tell that it's meant to be a robot hand yet. Well, robot hand, armored hand. A little bit more. No, not contour smoothing. Freaking minimum size. Cool. There we go. Yeah. Odkintoon says US news is like that too. I can't even watch it anymore. To put it in context, probably last to say it about now because I want to try and stay as on topic as possible. But so you know how propagandary places like Fox News and stuff can be, right? And how it's owned by Murdoch Press in particular. 90% of Australian news sources are all Murdoch owned. Imagine if 90% of all news was Foxy. It's crazy. Anyway, Summaries from time as well. Kiwi here. Excellent. Hello. Use OpenTunes. I believe it's similar to Harmony. Yeah, it's quite similar. From what I understand, OpenTunes is more of like the blender of 2D, isn't it? Because it's like a open source community contributing features and tools. I had a dabble with it when it first got released, but it was very like clunky at that time, which to be expected. It was brand new. I'm fascinated to see how far it's come. It seems like it's got a lot going for it now. Howling, oh cool. I can't believe my request for the other non-chatty viewers to get involved actually worked. Hello everyone. Howling Mad Fox Hatter Productions says, I have been a lurker of your stuff for a while. Your videos have been a great resource of stuff in Toon Boom. Thank you. I'm glad that they have been of use. Always open to more feedback and suggestions because I'm fully aware that my videos are far and few between sometimes and often lack focus and sometimes are not very easy to follow. So if there's like gaps in your knowledge, then like I'm always open to that sort of stuff, right? Cool. I am freelancing these days and wanted to try and switch to Harmony, but I have been using Flash for 5 years now. So despite Harmony being far superior, I stayed at Flash. Cool. I know exactly how you feel. I was using Flash for, goodness, how long? It was between 2005 to 2012. So how long's that? 5, 6, 7, 8 years or so. And I struggled immensely to make that shift. So I empathize fully. And one of the first series I did on this channel was a migrating from Flash to Harmony series, but that was in 2015. So it's well outdated now. I need to do a new one. However, when I shifted, it was still Flash CS4. So, you know, my knowledge of Flash is like, there's bound to be some features that have been introduced that aren't really there anymore, but I'm hoping that just explaining the core mechanics, you know, things like how symbols work and layers and things like that will get you across. But if I was to round it up into a single thought, big thing to get over if you're shifting from Flash to Harmony is the concept of drawing substitutions. Basically, everything is by default already a graphic symbol, if you know what I mean. So, sorry, I know I said I wouldn't do any more demos, but I think this is such an important one because it's really difficult to figure out on your own. But if you can get to grips with this quickly, then like you're so good. Also because this window isn't default. You got to go to Windows Drawing Substitutions for this to appear. But basically drawing substitutions and frames are independent. So if I draw a bright color, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. So we got frames 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they've appeared here in this order. And now I delete them. Oh no, I deleted all my drawings. Oh, actually, no, you haven't. All you've done is remove the exposures. All those drawings still exist. See that? They're in the bin. So I can just go here. I can go 3, 4, 2, 5, like that. And it exposes them every time. So consider what happens if I expose 2 a bunch of times over here, 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 like that. So as I scroll through the timeline, 2 appears a bunch of times. Off it goes. If I edit it, I put a circle around 2. What happens every time 2 appears? It's got a 2 around it for all of them, right? So this is the big pitfall that most Flash users stumble across, is that they start copying and pasting their frames around, thinking that they're keyframes and that they can edit them, and then go back to their previous drawings and be like, oh no, I've accidentally been overwriting my drawings this whole time. This program sucks. I'm done. That's a really common story. But if you approach it from this angle and respect how they work, it's a tremendous advantage that it goes in, that it works this way from the start. If you want to do that concept of duplicating it, that's what you do. There's this button over here called Duplicate Drawing. So you press that, and there we go. Look, now there is a second instance of 2, and that's what this is. As I move around here, you can see them flicking around to all the different exposures, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the last one goes to the second 2. So if I edit that one, the other 2s do not have a cross through them. That is the fundamental mechanic of how Harmony works. Get that embedded, and like you're good to go. You're going to stop making a lot of silly, confusing mistakes, I think, because the most common thing is, because if I select the physical artwork here, like with the drawing tool, copy that, paste that over here, look at what's happened. See, that has created a third instance of 2 because there was no exposure there, right? So it has created a new substitution with that artwork in it. This is what trips a lot of people up, because it feels like that copying and pasting this and copying and pasting this should be the same, right? In Flash, that is the same action. It is interchangeable. Throughout your workday in Flash, you move back and forth between copying and pasting those two things. You don't even think about it. It's just habit. So hitting this roadblock and being like, no, these are fundamentally 2 different actions and you have to get used to it, that can be frustrating at first. But, just take a bit of time to get comfortable with that. Deliberately make some animations that make use of recycling drawing exposures like that. And you'll be up and running in less than a day. Like it is that straightforward in the end. And then you build up all of your other knowledge on top of that concept. Yeah. Anyway, I hope that was, that helped, or if that was anything to do with anything that you've had in your Harmony versus Flash experience. Where was I up to? Oh yeah, I was trying to tidy up this hand here. Anyway, what was next? And Oddkitoon says, the plus side of being in Asia is the masks were already a fashion accessory. So when the mask did Mask Mandates, everyone was like already wearing them. Yeah, right? I agree. Like it's I'm hoping that it's like destigmatized a bit. That like I'm totally cool with it just being normal, like on trains and stuff, or even just like if you have a cold, like common courtesy. At least around here, I think in Victoria at least, that seems to be, destigmatized mostly, which is a relief. I will eventually start using Harmony. Thanks for your awesome videos and tutorials. Thank you, Snuffix. I hope that they have given you the courage to give it another crack, because I understand and respect that it is a big shift, letting go of tools that you're so used to. Like it does feel like you're taking a step backwards in that interim where you're not used to things yet. Howling Mad had a fox had a product. Do I have to say your name the whole time? Anyway, I had always been hesitant to set up rigs and doing tweens because I animate on 2s, until I discovered the stop motion function. Is great, isn't it? I was figuring out how to delete the empty drawing subs that it was figuring out how to delete the empty drawing subs that really screwed with me for a long while. So many blank drawing subs, oh my. Yeah, this is a weird one. I agree with you on this one. Because there's a couple of ways to do it now, as I'm sure you've probably found. The newest way that was implemented was in this drawing substitutions window, being able to unpadlock this, and then they all turn red, and you can go in and start deleting them from here. One of the plugins I was showing off a couple of hours ago is that. It's this here. It's called Delete Unexposed Cells. So you sort of just select the layer and then choose that, and then anything that's registered as empty, it'll just clear it, which is pretty nice. My go-to method up until now had been to just sort of set up the layer as I want it, expose all of the drawings that I want to have in the order that I want them to have them in, create a brand new drawing layer, and then copy and paste those cells up. So then it's a new layer that is fresh. It only has the things that I want on it, and I delete the old one. Hard for me to remember at the start. This is Odkins who's talking to Jesus the Jungle. I feel very happy when viewers start talking amongst themselves. Do more of that. Actually starts to feel like there's a little bit of community building happening for once. I often remember at the start, but now it just feels weird if I don't have it. I forget they... right, we're talking about masks and stuff. What version of Toon Boom is this? I'm assuming this is Toon Boom. Yes, this is Harmony 20. Harmony 20 Premium. So, like, you get the nodes and stuff. And 20, I think, brought in a bunch of game-changing features, especially on high-end stuff. Like, for every, TV production I've been a part of in the last 12 months, I've used 20's features extensively. They've been very, very useful. But for what I'm doing right now is all, arty. It's all just features that have been here since day dot, and it's fully dependent on whether or not I am competent at drawing or not. Lol. What do you use, Toby, by the way? What's your background? I always find it fascinating when I have viewers come by who are not Toon Boom users, because like that's such a core part of what my content's about. It sometimes puzzles me that I have anything to offer people who don't use it. Like a number of people in like my Patreon, when I ask them and a lot of them don't use Harmony, and I'm like, but the main perk that you get as a subscriber is Harmony working files. Why are you here? And they're like, I just like your content. I'm like, that's weird. Well, I won't stop you there. I'll just accept the damn compliment next time. I use Animate, but I'm saving for TV Paint. I hate Animate. Oh, well, yeah, I feel you there. Are you a fully frame by frame traditional animator? Therefore, have you sort of looked at the tools available that TV Paint's the thing that you're after? Like, what are your goals as well? Because if you want to be if you're sort of just working on personal films, or if you're aiming to be, or already working in the industry, that can make a difference what software you want to use. What country you're in makes a difference on what software you want to use. Like, I think a lot of the French industry is TV Paint. A lot of the British industry is Cell Action. Ireland and Canada is mostly Toon Boom. And Australia has been migrating over to Toon Boom over the last few years. Schools is the tricky thing. A lot of schools still teach Animate, and I don't know why. It's actually why I started the channel, because all of the schools were still learning programs that are not used in industry. And then at the beginning of new projects, when you would hire people, you'd have to train them all. None of them knew how to use the software. So things have changed a bit since then. We can ask that people already have Harmony experience on their resumes now, which is good. I prefer frame by frame and don't like using vector. All right, cool. Yeah, sounds like you've made a very sensible decision then with aiming for TV Paint. Oh, you're in Australia as well. Whereabouts? I feel like if we don't use Harmony, watching someone else's workflow can be helpful. Yeah, I get that. That's true. I watch a lot of Blender content, even though I don't use Blender much anymore. Maybe it's because I keep hoping that I'll get back into it again one day. It's come a long way since I last used it. I was really into Blender in like 2009. It's ages ago. Hey, I'm in Victoria. So it's exciting when turns out acquaintances are just around the corner. Near Melbourne. Okay, so you're somewhat ruralish in that case. I'm in Melbourne. I grew up in Sydney. I've been in Melbourne about 5 years now, ish. Oh, why does this? That's the last frame. That's weird. Is it because? Oh, right. This needs to be cleaned up more. Oh, Geelong. Yeah, I love Geelong. I was about to suggest that you come to Loop de Loop, but it's probably a little bit out of the way for Geelong. Even though it's only been on, I think twice this year, in between different lockdowns. But there's a few screenings throughout the world. Blender just made a deal with Adobe? Oh no! Oh no, that's so upsetting. That's horrible news. What does that mean? What does that mean? What will happen? It's going to start costing like $50 a month. And they'll add freaking like web design to it or something. It certainly wouldn't be open source anymore, surely. Oh no. Hopefully if you already have Blender downloaded, then they don't like take it off you or something. But then again, I remember not long ago when Adobe tried to pull that whole, if you're using an older version, it's like not legit or something. And it's like, excuse me, I paid like full price out of pocket for CS4 in 2009, which is why I still only have CS4, because it was like $4,000. And I was like, you know, very young. Like that, like I spent a year saving up for Master Suite. And I was very proud to now have like a legit copy. So it's like, oh, cool. I can actually like earn money with using the software legit now. Cool. Yeah, but if they turn around and be like, nah, it doesn't count, I'd be like, no, this is perpetual. Go away. I should mention, by the way, this is why Toon Boom as a company offer both subscription and perpetual licenses. And they also deliberately make it very easy to cancel your subscription at any time without making you jump through a bunch of stupid hoops. My final Adobe program, I'm Adobe free now, by the way, was Premiere. And that was costing, like, that by itself was a lot. And when I tried to cancel it, there was, like, the subscription fee was nuts. It was nuts. Sorry, the cancellation fee. And at the same time, try to push a whole lot of, like, stay with us perks. Like, oh, but if you stay, you will, we'll give you 3 months for free. And it's like, it feels so dirty. Like, stop. You shouldn't have to do that. Like, like, I would probably, like depending on what freelance gigs I have, I would probably activate and deactivate my Adobe subscription on the regular. Be like, oh, cool, I need After Effects for a couple of months, grab it and then turn it back off again. But it's made so difficult that it's just like, I just won't use it at all. I will find competing softwares to get things done, because I cannot deal with that poor level of customer care. It's so frustrating. Sorry, this is strong opinions about this. I think it's very disappointing, because it's like, I loved Adobe stuff growing up. I think we all did, and in a perfect world would continue to, but stop being dicks. So have any of you seen the James Lee cartoon about it? Cartoon. Short. Really puts it nicely. Here we go. I'm not sure if other people are allowed to post links, but I seem to be allowed to post links. Anyway, check this out. It's the best. I've tried to remove Premiere from my life, says Odd Kid Tunes, and more to hit film. I haven't even heard of that, but I subconsciously keep opening Premiere. Halfway through the project, it hits me. I've been really into DaVinci Resolve. I've found it much nicer to use than Premiere, and its business model is really clever too, because like they're all about their hardware. So it's like, use our industry grade professional level software for free. And if you're a working professional, maybe you'll go out and buy one of our sick cameras. And I'm like, cool. That's awesome. And many people I know have done that. Like, they started off just using Resolve just as a Premiere substitute. And because they do a lot more live action than I do, they actually benefit from it. They were like, you know what, I will get a Blackmagic camera, and they love it. And for some, it's just like the control decks. Like, it feels like you're piloting a mech. Like, it's got this big, like, 3 wheels and stuff for doing color correction and stuff. I want one, and I don't even do color correction. So my main geeky extra peripheral is one of those Razer gaming keypads. It's like half a keyboard sort of thing. Really cool for macros. Like, I've built a whole bunch of shortcuts and things into that. Saves a lot of time. Resolve crashes like this no tomorrow. Is that so? I found it to be relatively stable. Sometimes when doing fusion compositing, it's gotten a little dicey. But I'm not that experienced with it, so I've sort of just assumed that maybe I'm not using it properly. piece needs to be here. Cool. I think that's ready for cleanup now. Oh, there you go. You own 2 Blackmagic cameras, is it right there? Oh, you think it might be your Mac that's the problem? Fair enough. One thing that Adobe still has a hold over me is Audition. Ah, fair enough, yeah. There are a few tools in it I haven't found good alternatives for yet. So this is the thing, though, is like the fact that you're feeling the need to look for alternatives. Oh, I wish they didn't put us in a place where we had to. Adam Earl says, well, Onion Skid Live. Yeah, boy. I know, I don't do it often enough. I really like to get into it more often. It's just so difficult to, like, I guess, commit to it. The due date for this project is sort of coming up, so I sort of had to commit to it. I really would like to do it at least once a week. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of it. Unfortunately, it's really difficult for it to be consistent. Whenever it happens, it's probably going to be relatively spontaneous. Like, you'll have to keep an eye on the Twitter or something, and I'll be like going live in 10 minutes or something like that. If possible, I try and give like 12 to 24 hours heads up if you want to come hang out. But what might help even more, especially for you, Adam, if you've just arrived tonight, is I've just made the Discord server public. It used to be a Patreon only thing, but we've decided that, like, yeah, this screw it, this should be for everyone. So the link's in the description. You can go join that, and then we can hang out whenever. And you know, streams will definitely be like broadcasted there and stuff. And I might even do like more like private-y ones there as well, where it's like not even, doesn't even end up on the YouTube. It's just like a let's all just hang out as friends kind of thing, and everyone's working, doing their thing. Jumpin' Jacks, hello. There's like a new group of people starting to arrive. It's like as one half of the world goes to sleep, the other half is waking up. But tell me, Adam and Jumpin' Jacks, what time is it for you guys? Is it morning, evening? HallieMad had a production says, I pay for Toon Boom Premium subscription and the $20 a month for Audition still sucks. Yeah, it's Harmony subscription is an interesting one, because like if you're getting essentials, then it's like super affordable, like for anyone, I think. For I guess most, like it's on the same bar as most subscription services. But for premium, I can understand that it could be difficult to justify if it's not your daily driver, like if you're just a hobbyist or something. Like obviously for me, it's my main source of income. Like this is the thing that I use, so you know, of course it's worth it. But I should do more content that is specifically tailored to advanced and essentials users. I feel like I would imagine if you're a Harmony Essentials user that it would be a little bit frustrating that most tutorials are tailored towards premium, and it might feel like you're getting a bit left out. I hope to amend this eventually, but unfortunately I'm about to do a whole bunch of videos on particles, which is very much a premium thing. My bad. I got really into particles over the last couple of months, and really want to sort of show off what I found. And then by a staggering coincidence, ZipBoBrain started putting out particle tutorials like literally the same day. I was like, oh my god. So pausing that a little, but I think the first one will be coming out tomorrow, so that'll be exciting. Hey, Adam, you're a Sydney animator as well? There's like 5 Sydney animators here today. That's awesome. Whereabouts? Like, what do you do? I like working or? I just keep wondering if we have any mutuals if you're at like Flying Bark or anything. Not at the moment. Okay, so so that implies you were previously like. I'm trying to figure out if I might know you from anywhere as well. Our community's so insular. You were on at Flying Bark. Or what's on at Flying Bark? Oh, they do a bunch of stuff. Ninja Turtles is probably what they're most known for. Rise of TMNT. And Monkey Kid. Oh, you had your own studio. Nice. That's cool. Because there's not too many in Sydney. I used to be up at a studio in Gosford, of all places. And then, would you believe, another one opened up in Woy Woy. Ugh, and I just recently started at one down here in Melbourne. It's funny how the pandemic's been has opened a few opportunities for animators around here. Like, I had a few gigs that I would not have gotten if it wasn't oh man, I've been streaming too long. I'm starting to lose my words. Working remotely opened more opportunities. Like, I did some stuff at like one in Brisbane. That was pretty cool, being able to do that from home. The name of animation studios. Woy Woy. No, Woy Woy is in the suburb, just north of Sydney, Central Coast.